Chapter 1029. So on the third day, Xiaoru's butt hurt so much that she couldn't sit still. Chen Ning had prepared a thick mattress for her to lie on, but after a while, she climbed up and looked at Chen Ning with a bitter expression. "Doesn't your butt hurt? Why aren't you lying down?" Chen Ning felt this was strange. Xiaoru said with a red face, "My butt hurts sitting down, but lying down makes me uncomfortable here." She used her hand to rub her chest. Chen Ning was a bit stunned. Looking at her full chest, she couldn't help laughing at her. Xiaoru was already at the age of marriageable age and had developed well. Lying down on the mattress and with the bumpiness of the carriage, her chest would definitely feel uncomfortable. Zhui Feng is really stupid, he can't even drive a carriage properly. It's really bumpy. Xiaoru couldn't help complaining. Other than her butt, her entire body was sore and her bones felt like they were about to fall apart. Zhui Feng's lips twitched. He was indeed rushing, so he drove the carriage very fast, but the faster the carriage went, the bumpier it would be. He wasn't an immortal, he couldn't make the carriage go fast and steady. This damn stupid girl, why did she have so many problems? The Empress was sitting in the carriage with her, but she didn't complain at all. "Alright, it's been hard on you these past few days. We'll find a place to eat lunch today and then continue on our way." Chen Ning rubbed Xiaoru's head with a bit of heartache. "Zhui Feng, if we pass by any town, stop and we'll rest." She raised her voice and said to the outside of the carriage. "Yes, Royal. Miss Huang." Zhui Feng quickly changed the way he called her. Chen Ning said with a faint smile, "I'm Miss Chen, not Miss Huang." "Yes, Miss Chen." Zhui Feng couldn't help sweating. At noon, Zhui Feng drove the carriage into a town. This town wasn't big or small, but it was densely populated. The streets were bustling with people and it could be considered lively. Xiaoru couldn't help feeling excited as she looked out the window. She suddenly smelled the fragrance of food in the air and her stomach began to growl. For the past 3 days, she had barely eaten a warm meal. Every day, she had either steamed buns for lunch. In the morning and evening, she had the candied fruits brought from the palace. Although they were delicious, they couldn't compare to the fragrance of the meat. "Eldest miss, why don't we eat in this restaurant?" Xiaoru rubbed her stomach as her eyes stared longingly at the grand restaurant. "Alright, let's go." Chen Ning revealed a smile and ordered Zhui Feng to stop the carriage. Then she and Xiaoru got off the carriage. She stretched her legs and brought Xiaoru into the restaurant. Zhui Feng tied the horse to a nearby tree. The horse had a strong temper and normal people would not be able to get close. He followed Chen Ning into the restaurant. Chen Ning wanted to go to the private room upstairs, but she was stopped by the waiter at the stairs. When the waiter saw that the 3 of them were dressed in ordinary clothes, his expression became somewhat indifferent. He said that the upper floor was full and asked the 3 of them to sit in the main hall. Chen Ning could see that the waiter was not being sincere with a single glance, but she was not angry. She had seen too many people who looked down on people based on their appearance. If she was angry with this kind of person, she would have already been angry to her heart's content. "Alright, let's sit downstairs then," she said nonchalantly. Chapter 1030. "Waiter, give us a private room upstairs." "How much silver do you want? You can just say it." Zhui Feng took out a 20 silver ingot and threw it into the waiter's arms. This time, not only did the waiter's mouth drop open, even the waiter and the shopkeeper were shocked. Don't look at how ordinary the 3 of them were, who would have thought that they were god of wealth. "Yes, yes, yes. 3 guests, please come upstairs. This restaurant has the best private room." The waiter immediately nodded and bowed. He changed his expression and respectfully led the 3 of them upstairs. Zhui Feng was only thinking about the emperor's last words. No matter what, he couldn't let the Empress suffer any grievances. But Chen Ning slightly knit her brows. She looked at the guests eating downstairs and found that there were quite a few people staring at Jue Feng. This 20 silver ingot was not a small amount, it was enough for a family of 3 to live a well-off life for a year. Jue Feng taking out 20 silver ingots at once, naturally it would attract the attention of others. The so-called not revealing one's wealth would not bring disaster to oneself. The 3 of them entered the private room and Chen Ning pulled Xiao Ru to sit down. Jue Feng stood on the side and stared at Xiao Ru. Did this stupid girl understand the difference in status? She actually dared to sit and eat with the Empress. Really, Jue Feng, you sit down as well. We're outside, there aren't many rules. Chen Ning looked at Jue Feng. This subordinate does not dare. Miss Chen is this subordinate's master, this subordinate cannot eat with master no matter what. This subordinate will just stand here. Jue Feng replied. He deliberately spoke in a voice that was not loud or soft, allowing Xiao Ru to hear him. After saying this, he looked at Xiao Ru from the corner of his eyes. He found that Xiao Ru acted like she did not hear his words and was still sitting there arrogantly. His heart was filled with indignation. Chen Ning knew that Jue Feng was a person that followed the rules. If he said he wouldn't sit, then he wouldn't sit. So she did not force him and had the waiter add another table in the room. How about you sit at that table? She said. Jue Feng finally dared to sit down. Miss Xiao Ru, you can also sit here. He finally couldn't help saying this. Why do I have to sit over there? Xiao Ru looked at him strangely and raised her nose at him. I don't like sitting with you. Seeing you, I can't even eat. Her words made Jue Feng's face turn red. He stared at Xiao Ru, unable to say anything. Jue Feng's face turned red as he stared at Xiao Ru, unable to speak. She didn't know where this guy came from, but she remembered that it was this guy who dirted her new dress and scratched her chest. Although he happily compensated her with several thousand silver coins as her dowry, it did not change Xiao Ru's bad impression of him. She did not want to see his face, which seemed to be carved out of wood, expressionless. So on the way, she did not say a single word to Jue Feng. Chen Ning looked at Xiao Ru and then at Jue Feng, feeling a bit of a headache. It was like these two people had a grudge against each other in their previous lives, neither of them pleasing to the eye. If she knew this earlier, she wouldn't have brought the two of them together. Chapter 1031. Not long after, the dishes were brought out. It was very sumptuous and the fragrance filled the air. Xiao Ru's saliva began to flow out as she reached out with her chopsticks to pick up the dishes. Jue Feng couldn't help giving a cough. Miss Xiao Ru. His eyes revealed a look of dissatisfaction. What? Xiao Ru glanced at him. You are a maid, so as a servant, you should let the master eat first. How can a maid eat before the master even starts eating? Jue Feng said in a cold voice. You. Xiao Ru's face instantly turned red. It wasn't that she didn't understand the hierarchy, but she had grown up with Chen Ning, so she treated Chen Ning as her own blood-related older sister. Adding in the fact that Chen Ning had never been polite to her, she would sometimes forget herself. Being criticized by Jue Feng at this time, her eyes turned red as she felt ashamed. Xiao Ru, bring these dishes over to Jue Feng. He's been driving the carriage for us, so it's been hard on him. Also, bring this pot of wine over to him. Chen Ning rubbed Xiao Ru's hair and gave her a comforting smile. Xiao Ru's heart was filled with unwillingness. She picked up the dishes and placed them in front of Jue Feng. Many thanks, Miss Chen. Jue Feng was not polite. He was very hungry, so he grabbed the steamed bun. He took a bite of the steamed bun and quickly ate it. Xiao Ru couldn't help opening her eyes wide as she stared at Jue Feng. She had never seen a person eat like Zhuai Feng before, eating like a whirlwind. The fist-sized steamed bun, he ate half of it in a single bite, eating one in 2 bites. That full plate of food was emptied with just a few chopsticks. God, was he the reincarnation of a hungry ghost? Xiao Ru's chin almost fell off. Zhuai Feng ate 8 steamed buns and 4 plates of food in a single breath. His stomach was slightly bulging, but he didn't touch the pot of wine. Rather, he picked up the teapot and drank it. Wine could make a person lose their vigilance, so he never touched a drop of wine. After eating and drinking to his heart's content, he stood up and stood in a corner with his hands clasped in a solemn manner. Is there something on my face? Zhuai Feng saw that Xiao Ru's eyes were staring at his face, not even eating. His heart was filled with curiosity, but he raised his hand to touch his face a few times, not feeling anything. Then he glared at Xiao Ru and ignored her. Xiao Ru couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Seeing Zhuai Feng eating so happily, she felt even hungrier. Xiao Ru, come and eat. You'll definitely like these dishes. Chen Ning pulled Xiao Ru to sit down and picked up some food for her. She secretly laughed in her heart. If it was anyone else being stared at by Xiao Ru like this, it would be strange if they could eat. This Zhuai Feng was truly strange. After the 3 of them finished eating, they continued on their way. Zhuai Feng drove the carriage and quickly left the city. Xiao Ru rubbed her bulging stomach as she lay on the carriage with a bitter expression. She didn't want to move at all because if she moved, she wouldn't be able to stop herself from vomiting. You gluttonous girl, who told you to eat so much? Now you know how uncomfortable it is. Chen Ning found this funny and angry as she stared at her. Young miss, this servant saw Zhuai Feng eating so happily and this servant felt very hungry, unknowingly eating too much. Oh! Before she finished speaking, the carriage suddenly jolted. Her face changed and she almost vomited. Chen Ning quickly patted Xiao Ru's back. Zhuai Feng, slow down. Xiao Ru ate too much and her stomach isn't feeling well, so she can't stand the jolting. She raised her voice as she spoke. Chapter 1032. Oh. Chen Ning's eyes flashed and she opened the curtain at the back of the carriage. Looking back, she found that there were 4 horses following their carriage at a moderate speed and there were several men dressed in Jianghu attire sitting on the horses. She remembered the appearance of these 4 people. She had seen them in the restaurant before and the 4 of them were sitting at a table drinking and eating. When Zhuai Feng threw the silver to the waiter, she saw the greedy look in their eyes. Xiao Ru also sat up and saw the 4 strong-looking men. They all had a fierce appearance and weapons on their waists, causing her face to turn white. She did not care about her stomach as she opened the curtain and shouted at Zhuai Feng, quickly, quickly, quickly. Quickly drive the carriage, don't worry about me. We can't let these bad people catch up to our carriage. Zhuai Feng acted like he did not hear anything as he continued to drive the horse forward, not even looking at her. Xiao Ru's face turned red with anger as she shouted, Are you deaf? Quickly drive the carriage. If the young miss falls into the hands of these bad people, I will risk my life with you. It's all your fault. The young miss always said that money shouldn't be shown, but you just had to show off your power in this restaurant and show off. Now it's great, you've caused a large problem and you're not in a hurry. If you don't drive, I'll drive. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. Seeing that Zhuai Feng was not moving at all, she turned around and saw that the 4 horses were getting slower and slower. She gritted her teeth and charged over to take the whip from Zhuai Feng's hand. Sit down obediently for me. Zhuai Feng shouted in a deep voice as he turned around to look at Xiao Ru with cold eyes. Xiao Ru was scared by his eyes, she was not afraid of him. What are you being so fierce for? You have the skills to be fierce to me, but you don't have the skills to deal with these bad people. You. Ah. Her fingers had just touched the whip when she suddenly felt a strong force coming from the whip. She couldn't stand still in her but fell onto the floor of the carriage. It was so painful that tears came out of her eyes. You. She pointed at Jue Feng and was prepared to curse at him. Xiao Ru. Chen Ning stopped her. Of course she knew that the 4 people behind her did not have good intentions, but her face was still calm. Jue Feng, can you deal with these 4 tails? Hey, with their skills, even if there were 10 of them, this subordinate would still be enough to deal with them. Jue Feng proudly said. Xiao Ru rolled her eyes at him and gave a snort. Stop boasting. 10 times is 40. If they really had 40 people, wouldn't you have already been scared to the ground? Jue Feng directly turned his head and did not say anything, pretending he was deaf. Chen Ning smiled and said, Xiao Ru, your calculations are really good. You actually know that 10 times 4 is 40. She was afraid that the 2 of them would continue bickering, so she praised Xiao Ru to divert her attention. Xiao ran, Chen Xiao was, Xiao of Xiao, Xiao Ning, she said. Chen really, Chen you is of, Ming. Chen Xiao you really is, you are. Miss Chen, do you want this subordinate to deal with these 4 fellows now? Jue Feng asked. Chen Ning looked at the 4 horses behind her and then at the people and carriages on both sides of the road. She hesitated for a bit. Chapter 1033. The carriage moved forward another 10 miles and arrived at the edge of the forest. There was no one around and they could hear the sound of horse hooves behind them. The 4 Jianghu men had caught up on their horses and blocked the front of the carriage. Jue Feng stopped his horse and coldly looked at the 4 of them, not saying a word. One of them raised his voice and said, This mountain was opened by me and this tree was planted by me. If we cross this place, I'll give you money for the road. Before that person could finish speaking, he heard a crisp voice. Then, with a tchi sound, an object flew out from the carriage and flew towards his face. That person was surprised and happy as he quickly reached out to catch it. Holding it in his hand, he saw that it was a fist-sized stone. He was so angry that his nose became crooked. Daring to play with your master, are you tired of living? That man pulled out a bronze mace from his waist and smashed it down at Jue Feng's head. He saw that Jue Feng was wearing a normal servant's clothes. He was as thin as a bamboo pole and didn't have any meat on his body, so how could he place him in his eyes? He thought that this mace would be able to smash Jue Feng's head open, but he suddenly felt a pain in his wrist like it was broken. With a "paw" sound, something fell to the ground. The man looked down and saw a bloody broken hand with a bronze mace in it. He was stunned for a while before subconsciously looking at his right hand. He found that there was only a bare wrist left and he realized that his hand had been separated from his wrist. He instantly let out a pitiful cry like a pig being slaughtered. The other 3 people were surrounding the carriage. They jumped onto the carriage and pulled down the curtain. Seeing Chen Ning and Xiao Ru inside the carriage, they revealed charming smiles. Our luck is not bad today, meeting 3 fat sheep. The appearances of these 2 girls are even better. Suddenly hearing the man's pitiful cry, they turned around and instantly took a cold breath. The 3 of them shouted out in unison. They pulled out their steel blades and fiercely charged at Jue Feng. Xiao Ru saw the fierce expressions on the men's faces and the shining blades in their hands. She was so scared that her body began to tremble as she hid in the corner. Seeing that one of their blades was about to hit Jue Feng's head, another person slashed at Jue Feng's waist, and the 3rd person was even more cunning, actually stomping down at Jue Feng's feet. Jue Feng was like a piece of wood, not moving at all, not reacting at all. Xiao Ru was very anxious. Jue Feng, dodge. Quickly dodge. He wants to cut off your head." Her words abruptly stopped because at this time, Shui Feng suddenly moved. He waved the whip in his hand and wrapped it around a man's neck. With another pull, the man's head and neck were separated. A skull fell to the ground and the headless body swayed before falling to the ground, creating a cloud of dust. Xiao Ru's eyes almost popped out. Seeing the decapitated person and the blood splattering all over the ground, she had never seen such a terrifying scene in her life. She was so scared that her hands and feet turned soft. She looked at Shui Feng like he was a devil from hell. Shui Feng was very ruthless, not showing any mercy at all. His face was expressionless as the whip in his hand came out again. Another man's head was cut off and blood began to pour out of his chest. Chapter 1034. How could Shui Feng allow him to escape? He gently hooked a blade on the ground with his foot and the blade flew out like a meteor at the escaping man. With a pitiful cry, the blade pierced through the man's back and the tip of the blade came out of the man's chest. The man's body swayed and he fell to the ground dead. Of the 4 people, there was only the man with the broken arm left. His face was the color of dirt and his legs were like sieves as he fell to the ground. "Good man, spare me. Don't kill me." As soon as his voice fell, Shui Feng's right hand came out and grabbed his throat. With a soft exploding sound, the man's eyes popped out and he died. Shui Feng could smell a stench coming from the man's body. When he died, he had pissed himself. He knit his brows and kicked out, sending the man's body flying far away like a rag bag. "You! How can you be this vicious? They just wanted to steal money, but you took their lives as soon as you made a move. You are even more terrifying than a demon." Xiao Ru stared at Shui Feng and then looked at the 4 corpses on the ground. They were still bleeding and the soil on the ground was dyed red with blood. Her heart tightened. Even if she knew that these 4 people were not good people, seeing them die this miserably, she couldn't help feeling hate and fear towards Shui Feng. Shui Feng's expression did not change. As the Emperor's secret guard, he had encountered many dangers. Killing these trivial people was as easy as eating tofu. He even thought that these 4 people were rookies and were not worth him making a move. His motto was to be 10 times fiercer than his enemies. If 1 came, he would kill 1. If 2 came, he would kill 2. There were countless people that had died under his hands over the years and there were many who had died more miserably than this. He looked at Xiao Ru with a cold gaze like he was making a mountain out of a molehill. Then he raised the horse whip that was covered in blood and slapped the horse's butt. "Go!" The carriage did not even have time to move before there was the sound of a pudong, heavy object falling to the ground. A linen bag had fallen off the back of the 4 men's horses. It was currently wriggling like there was something alive inside. "Ah, what is that?" Xiao Ru let out a surprised cry. Shui Feng's eyes narrowed and he was too lazy to care. No matter what it was, it had nothing to do with him. His mission was to protect the Empress, so he did not want any trouble. He waved the whip again and prepared to drive the carriage. "Wait a minute." Chen Ning heard a low, woo-woo sound coming from the bag. It sounded like a human's voice. "Feng, there's someone in that bag," Shui Feng said. He replied faintly, but remained seated in the carriage without moving. "There's someone. That must be a good guy who was kidnapped by the 4 bad guys. I'll go save him." Xiao Ru was filled with anger when she saw Shui Feng's indifferent appearance. She did not wait for Chen Ning to speak and jumped off the carriage. She ran over to the sack and untied the knot on it. "Miss Chen, it's more important for us to hurry on with our journey. Shouldn't we not care about unrelated people and matters?" Shui Feng hesitated a bit before finally saying this. "All right." Chen Ning nodded. Once Xiao Ru releases that person, we'll continue on our way. Chen. However, that person's appearance caused the three of them to be stunned. Chapter 1035. Xiao Ru quickly took out the cloth from the little boy's mouth and then untied the ropes on his body. Yeah, whose family are you? Why are you tied up like this? You're really pitiful. The little boy was so cute that she had a good impression of him the moment she saw him. Woo, 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 elder sister, save me, those 4 bad people are bad. They lied to me and said they would take me to find my father and mother. In the end, they tied me up and placed me in a sack. I'm so scared. The boy's hands and feet were untied. He threw himself into Xiao Ru's embrace and began to sob. Don't cry, and don't be afraid. Those 4 bad people are dead, they won't harm you anymore. What's your name? Where do you live? Elder sister will send you home, all right? Xiao Ru had never dealt with a child this young before. Being hugged and crying by the little boy, her heart turned soft like cotton. She wished she could kiss the little boy's chubby white face. The little boy's tears turned into a smile. Elder sister, you're really good. His childish voice saying, elder sister, made Xiao Ru's heart itch. She pulled the boy up and helped him pat off the dirt on his body before pulling him to the front of the carriage. Eldest miss, let's send this young master back, okay? Look at how young he is, being kidnapped by bad people, isn't that pitiful? Before Chen Ning could say anything, Zhui Feng coldly spoke up. You can't. Why can't you? It was like Xiao Ru's tail had been stung by something as she angrily glared at Zhui Feng. Why don't you have any sympathy at all? You kill people just because you say you want to, your heart is this vicious. Don't you see how pitiful this young master is? Zhui Feng coldly looked at the boy. The little boy was stared at by his cold eyes and couldn't help shivering. He hid behind Xiao Ru and his little hand grabbed the corner of Xiao Ru's clothes as he said in a soft voice, elder sister, I'm scared. This person is very fierce, even fiercer than those 4 bad people. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. With me here, he won't dare bully you. Xiao Ru quickly pulled his hand and comforted him. Young miss, let's send this young master home, all right? She looked up and looked at Chen Ning with a pleading look on her face. Chen Ning's eyes fell onto the little boy's face and she gave a gentle smile. What's your name? Where do you live? How old are you this year? The boy popped his head out from behind Xiao Ru. When he saw Chen Ning, his large eyes lit up and his round face revealed a smile. Elder sister, you are so beautiful. You are even more beautiful than the elder sister who saved me. Xiao Ru proudly said, this is my family's young miss. She was the one who found you in the sack and she was the one who let me save you. Really? Elder sister, when I grow up, will you be my wife? The little boy's eyes lit up and he forgot his fear of Zhui Feng. He jumped in front of the carriage and climbed onto the carriage with his short legs, wanting to jump into Chen Ning's embrace. Zhui Feng reached out and grabbed the boy's collar. He frowned and threw him off the carriage. Little brat, stay away from my Mississippi. You haven't even grown your hair yet. What do you know about a wife? Even though this boy was young, he was still a man. He had to protect the Empress for his master. No man was allowed to touch even a corner of the Empress' clothes. Chapter 1036. His snow-white little face was covered in sparkling tears. He cried until Xiao Ru's heart turned into water. She came forward to hug the little boy and coaxed, little master, don't cry, don't cry. He is a bad person, so let's ignore him. My family's young miss is a good person, so tell my family's young miss where you live. We'll send you home. When the little boy heard this, his tears turned into a smile. He reached out his arms to hug Xiao Ru's neck. All right, elder sister, carry me into the carriage. I'm afraid of that bad person, he will throw me down again. My butt will be in so much pain. Xiao Ru picked up the boy and found it a bit difficult. She said in a strange voice, why are you so heavy? The boy's lips turned flat like he was about to cry. Elder sister, are you thinking I'm fat? Woo, I just eat a lot. Good, don't cry. I'm not thinking you're fat, you're just too cute. Xiao Ru carried him into the carriage and couldn't help pinching his fat white cheeks. She saw that Jue Feng was about to reach out again, so she quickly protected the little boy behind her and glared at Jue Feng. You're bullying a little child, aren't you ashamed? Jue Feng said with a cold face, we have to hurry, so we can't send him home. If we leave him here, there will naturally be someone who will send him home. What do you mean? You're saying I'm meddling. You're really cold-blooded, you don't have a single bit of humanity. Young miss, say something and we'll send this little master home. There isn't a single person here, so if we don't care about him and leave him here, what if a wild beast comes from the forest and eats him? Since we've saved him, we have to do a good deed to the end. Young miss, don't you think so? Xiao Ru pulled Chen Ning's sleeve and stared at her. Chen Ning said with a smile, even if we send him home, we still need to know where his home is. Little master, do you still remember your name and where you live? The little boy blinked his eyes. His innocent appearance was very cute and Xiao Ru couldn't help pinching his cheeks again. My mother calls me Xiao Bao, so elder sister should also call me Xiao Bao. Home. My home is in the city and I have a very, very large house. There is a very, very large sweet-scented osmanthus tree in the yard. That's right, there is also a pond in my house with a lot of golden carps that are very beautiful. Pretty elder sister, if you send me home, I'll give you all of my carps, all right? Xiao Bao said this as his dark eyes turned. He wanted to jump into Chen Ning's embrace. He wanted to throw himself into Chen Ning again. Jue Feng gave a cough. His mouth flattened, and with a sudden wah, he burst into tears again. Xiao Bao misses mom, Xiao Bao misses dad, Xiao Bao misses home. I just wanted to sneak out to buy candied haws to eat, but these 4 bad guys said they would send me home. In the end, they tied me up with ropes and gagged my mouth. It's so scary. Are you guys bad guys too? Xiao and Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao, don't cry, don't cry. We aren't bad people and won't tie you up. My family's young miss is the best, she will definitely send you home. Xiao Ru's heart melted. She took out a handkerchief to wipe his tears and comforted him while hugging him. Xiao Ru, do you know where his home is? Chen Ning asked. Chapter 1037. Jue Feng gave a cold snort. Humph, it's easy for you to say. Do you know which city his home is in? What's the name of the house? An osmanthus tree and a pond, which family doesn't have these 2 things? Xiao Ru was stunned and couldn't answer a single word. I. She was stunned. Elder sister Xiao Ru, you said you would send Xiao Bao home. You said it, you can't go back on your words, woo. Xiao Bao's crying became louder in Xiao Ru's arms as his shoulders trembled. Xiao Ru's head became 2 heads. Xiao Bao, don't cry. Elder sister will definitely send you home. Although she said this, where was this little boy's home? Xiao Ru's eyes were filled with confusion. Young miss, what do we do? He's too young, he doesn't even know where his home is. How do we send him home? Chen Ning's lips slightly curled and she said with a smile, I don't know what to do. You want to save him, so think of a way yourself. Jue Feng said in a cold voice, now you know you've saved a large problem. Xiao Bao is not a large problem. Xiao Ru glared at Jue Feng and then coaxed the little boy in her arms. Xiao Bao, think again. Which city is your home in? What's the name of that city? Also, what's the name of your house? If you say it clearly, elder sister will immediately send you home. Xiao Bao blinked his eyes. He had a confused look on his face as he shook his head. A city is a city. Are there many cities? The house is my home. Elder sister, your words are very strange. Xiao Bao doesn't understand. Xiao Ru anxiously pulled at her hair. She could only ask Chen Ning for help. Young miss, think of a way. You're so smart, you must have a way. Chen Ning shook her head and said, I'm not an immortal from the heavens, I can calculate everything. How about this, we'll bring him along first. After we're done here, we'll think of a way to help him find his family. She said to Xiao Bao with a faint smile, Xiao Bao, we have something important to do right now, so we can't immediately send you home. Are you willing to come with us first? Xiao Bao is willing. Xiao Bao immediately stopped crying. He used the back of his hand to wipe his tears and snot, smearing Xiao Ru's clothes. Xiao Ru's face instantly turned into a bitter gourd. Miss Chen, are we really going to take this kid with us? Jue Feng stared at Xiao Bao in disbelief, his stomach full of unwillingness. Where did this little wimpy brat come from? Well, he's all alone and pitiful. If we don't take him with us, are we going to leave him here? Just like little Ru said, if he met a bad person or some wild beast, it wouldn't be good if he was eaten. Since we saved him, we should do good deeds to the end. Chen Ning said with a faint expression. She raised her eyebrows. Jue Feng, do you have any objections? Jue Bao. Jue Feng loudly shouted in his heart, but he raised his whip and stared at Xiao Ru. Get on the carriage. The more he looked at Xiao Ru, the more displeased he was. This girl was simply a troublemaker. She didn't have any skills, but she just liked to cause trouble. Xiao Tutu. Xiao Bao Xiao Bao she he and climbed onto the carriage. Xiao Bao, try this 1,000-layer cake. It's fragrant, soft, and sweet, you'll definitely like it. There's also this plum blossom cake, you've probably never eaten it before. Come, have a piece. Xiao Ru opened her bag and took out a pile of cakes and candied fruits. Placing them on the table, she gave them to Xiao Bao like she was presenting a treasure. Chapter 1038. You don't like sweet things? Then try this salty pastry. It's thin and crispy, it's my young miss favorite. Xiao Ru took out several desserts for him, but Xiao Bao still shook his head and refused to eat them. If you don't like desserts, there's also pine nut candy and rice dumplings. You don't want any? Then how about some candied fruits? This pear meat is my favorite, do you want to try one? Xiao Ru's patience was very good, but no matter what she took out or how she softly coaxed him, Xiao Bao was not interested at all. You don't want any of this or that, what do you like to eat? Tell elder sister and I'll go buy it for you. Xiao Ru was not angry and continued to speak with a smile. Xiao Bao's mouth flattened and he began to sob. I don't want to eat anything. I miss my mother, I miss my father, I want to go home. Seeing him cry, Xiao Ru's heart softened. She quickly pulled him into her embrace and patted his back. She coaxed, good Xiao Bao, don't cry. Once my young miss finishes her business, I'll immediately send you home to see your father and mother, all right? Xiao Bao blinked his eyes and said, but that person outside is very fierce. He's even fiercer than those 4 bad people. Xiao Bao is afraid that he will hit me and scold me. With elder sister here, he definitely won't dare hit you or scold you. Xiao Bao, don't cry. My young miss really knows how to tell stories. She'll tell you a story and you won't cry, alright? Alright, All right, Xiao Bao loves listening to stories. Xiao Bao's tears immediately turned into a smile. His two large eyes filled with tears as he looked at Chen Ning. Chen Ning smiled and said, "All right, then I'll tell you a story." Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "All right, then I'll tell you a story." There was an old mister who was traveling and met a wolf. The wolf was being chased by a hunter and begged the old mister to save its life. The old mister pitied the wolf and placed it in a sack. When the hunter came, he asked the old mister if he had seen a wolf. The old mister shook his head and the hunter continued to chase. When the hunter left, the old mister opened the sack and let the wolf out. Then the wolf said that it would repay the old mister. Can you guess how the wolf repaid the old mister? Xiao Ru and Xiao Bao listened attentively. Xiao Bao blinked and did not say anything. Xiao Ru quickly said, "That wolf must have given the old mister a lot of treasures, right?" Chen Ning shook her head with a smile and said, "After the wolf gratefully said those words to the old mister, it opened its mouth and ate the old mister into its stomach." Ah! Xiao Ru let out an angry cry. This wolf really has no conscience. Old mister saved it, but it ate your savior. Chen Ning nodded. That's right, this wolf doesn't have a conscience, but it is still a beast. It can only blame the old mister for not knowing if he was saving a human or a beast. So, Xiao Ru, when you want to save someone in the future, you have to open your eyes wide. Don't save an ungrateful wolf and end up becoming a snack in the wolf's stomach. Xiao 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 xi. Xiao xiao, xiao xiao xiao. Xiao ti xiao xiao xiao. Xiao 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 xiao, xiao xiao. Xiao 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 xiao. Xiao 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 xiao. Xiao, and xiao 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 ti. Xiao Bao unknowingly drank 2 mouthfuls and blinked as he said, "Beautiful sister, Sister Xiao Ru, Xiao Bao is not an ungrateful person. You saved me, so I will definitely repay you." Ha, ha. Xiao Ru laughed as she rubbed her stomach. After rubbing her stomach, she rubbed Xiao Bao's head. Chapter 1039. Chen Ning pursed her lips into a smile and said, "That's right, this is a story, it can't be real." She revealed a faint smile as she looked at Xiao Bao. "You still haven't told us, how old are you this year?" Xiao Bao's eyes rolled around. 5. No, 6 years old. Chen Ning smiled as she rubbed his head, but she did not say anything. Xiao Ru took in a cold breath as she looked at Xiao Bao with a strange gaze. "Elder sister, is there anything on Xiao Bao's face?" Xiao Bao touched his face in confusion. "Xiao Bao, why are you lying?" Xiao Ru blurted out. When did I lie?" Xiao Bao immediately said. He couldn't help blinking his eyes again. You are lying. When you spoke, your eyes moved to the upper right. Eldest Miss once told me that when people are telling the truth, they will look straight at the other party, and their eyes will not move randomly. But when people are lying, they will involuntarily move their eyes to the upper right. I saw it very clearly just now. You were lying. Xiao Ru angrily looked at Xiao Bao. You're still this young and you're already learning to lie. This habit is not good at all. Xiao Bao suddenly revealed a smile. Elder sister Xiao Ru, you're so smart. Beautiful elder sister, you're even smarter. I was just casually telling a lie and it was seen through by you guys. You guys are truly amazing. Xiao Ru stared at him in a daze. She suddenly felt that something was different about him. She couldn't help moving closer to Chen Ning. Xiao Bao was still smiling as he blinked at Xiao Ru. Elder sister Xiao Ru, your body is so fragrant. Xiao Bao wants you to hug me. He opened his arms and threw himself into Xiao Ru's embrace. Xiao Ru gave a frightened scream and jumped up. You. Why do you seem Like you've grown up. Her voice trembled. Xiao Bao stopped and stuck out his little chest. With a smile, he said, "Elder sister Xiao Ru, your eyes are really good." Xiao Ru found that he really had grown a bit taller. Even his facial features seemed to have grown a bit. His face that was round like a cute bun had now become delicate, as if he was 7-8 years old. What happened? Zhui Feng heard Xiao Ru scream and charged into the carriage. Before he could even stabilize himself, he suddenly felt his chest go numb and he couldn't move at all. He lowered his eyes, only to see Xiao Bao's right fist hit precisely on the Shanzhong acupoint on his chest. Xiao Bao! What are you doing? Xiao Ru screamed and she wanted to charge over, but was stopped by Zhui Feng. Chen Ning softly said, "You still can't see. The one we saved is just a thankless wolf." Ungrateful Feng. Young miss, you're saying that he will harm us. Xiao Ru's eyes popped out in shock. Xiao Bao Ning Ning, Zhui Feng has already been restrained by him. What do you think he will do to us next? Chen Ning angrily glared at Xiao Ru. Xiao Bao. Xiao ao, Xiao Bao, Xiao Ning said. Xiao Bao. Take a closer look, is he really a child? Chen Ning gave a cold laugh. Xiao Bao giggled and shook his shoulders. A burst of crackling sound was heard from his bones, and he grew a bit taller. Beautiful elder sister's eyes are better. It's a pity that you found out too late. He smiled as he winked at Chen Ning. Who are you? Why are you lying to us? You. What do you want to do? Chapter 1040. If you want money, we'll give you money. Take the money and leave. Xiao Ru said in a trembling voice. It was strange. Although Xiao Bao had grown a bit, he still looked like a 10-year-old child. She was still taller than him by quite a bit, but she didn't know why. But Xiao Ru felt that Xiao Bao's eyes were filled with an indescribable evil intent. When he stared at her, it was like a hungry wolf staring at its prey. Her body couldn't help trembling and her heart filled with a chill. Money? Who wants that kind of thing? It's smelly and hard. Xiao Bao smiled as he took 2 steps forward and pointed at Chen Ning. I want this beautiful elder sister's life. He smiled as he slowly said this. You. Xiao Ru was so shocked that she couldn't say anything. She finally managed to say, why? Does my family's young miss not have any grudges with you? Why would you? How could there be so many whys? Beautiful elder sister, how do you want to die? Seeing that you're so pretty, I can give you 2 choices. One is for me to cut off your pretty head and the other is for you to drink this medicine. You'll die without any pain. Ze, you should choose the second option. For a beauty like you, it would be a pity if you lost your head. Xiao Bao took out a small medicine bottle and threw it on the ground. His smile was still very innocent and cute, but the words he said were very sinister and sinister. Xiao Ru's hair stood on end hearing this. You're not human. You're a demon. Little demon. Xiao Ru screamed out. Little demon. That's not a bad name, I like it. Xiao Bao tilted his head and revealed a harmless smile. But in Xiao Ru's eyes, his smile was even more terrifying than a demon's. Young miss, quickly run. I'll hold him back. Quickly run. Xiao Ru gathered all the courage in her body and threw herself at Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao gently dodged and with a hook with his right foot, Xiao Ru fell to the ground. She reached out with her hands and tightly grabbed onto Xiao Bao's leg. Young miss, quickly run, quickly run. Run. Beautiful elder sister, do you think you can run? Xiao Bao allowed Xiao Ru to hug his leg and tilted his head to look at Chen Ning with a smile. Chen Ning stood in the same spot without moving. Her face was still very calm and there was not a single trace of panic on her face. Elder sister, you don't seem afraid at all. Is it because Xiao Bao is so cute that he won't kill me? Xiao Bao, Xiao Bao, Xiao Bao, Xiao Ru, Xiao Bao. He smiled as he winked at Chen Ning and said, Elder sister, if you don't want to take the medicine, then I won't be polite. I will use this steel wire to strangle your neck, and as long as I use a bit of strength, your pretty head will fall off your neck. You will die the same way as those 4 dead dogs outside. Do you like this kind of death? Chen Ning smiled as she looked at Chen Ning. Although Xiao Ru was holding onto his leg, he didn't seem to be affected at all when he walked. He still had the height of a 7 or 8-year-old child, but his strength was surprisingly strong. Xiao Ru couldn't hold on to him no matter how hard she tried. I beg you, please let go of my young miss. If you want to kill me, I'll give you my head. Xiao Bao, don't hurt my young miss, I beg you. Chapter 1041. Chen Ning stared at Xiao Bao and looked him up and down, bone-shrinking art. Xiao Bao was a little surprised, but then he smiled. Pretty elder sister knows quite a bit, but the more you know, the less likely you are to live. He had the innocent smile of a child on his face, but his eyes were filled with a cold glow that was like a blade, filled with killing intent. Chen Ning just stood there calmly, not showing any fear at all. Xiao Bao was stunned again. His eyes revealed an expression like a cat chasing a mouse. He deliberately slowed down his steps and walked over to Chen Ning. Young miss, quickly run. Xiao Ru saw Xiao Bao come closer and closer. The steel wire in his hand was pulled taut and her heart was about to jump out. Her voice suddenly stopped. Because suddenly, she saw a silver light flash in front of her. It was like a rain of flowers falling from the sky. Chi! 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 The sound of silver needles stabbing into flesh could be heard. Ah! Xiao Bao revealed a shocked expression and then let out a long pitiful cry. He fell to the ground and rolled around. Xiao Ru did not know what had happened at all. How did the murderous Xiao Bao suddenly turn into meat on the chopping block? She climbed up from the ground and stared blankly. Chen Ning smiled as she took a step forward. She stretched out her right foot and gently kicked Xiao Bao's shoulder. Xiao Bao let out an even more pitiful cry. White-eyed wolf, does the feeling of a peacock spreading its tail feel good? She smiled as she looked at Xiao Bao on the ground. There was no sympathy in her eyes at all. Xiao Bao's eyes turned white from the pain. His teeth bit his lips, but he could not say anything. He still looked like a 7 or 8-year-old child, but in Xiao Ru's eyes, he was no longer that cute little boy, but rather a sinister little devil. She did not feel pity for him at all. You white-eyed wolf, we saved you, but you want to kill our young miss. You're not a human, you're a beast. Xiao Ru charged over and forcefully slapped his face. Kill me. Kill me. Xiao Bao gritted his teeth and squeezed out a few words from between his teeth. Speak, who are you? Why do you want to harm our young miss? Xiao Ru shouted. Xiao Ru, there's no need to ask. He won't tell you even if you ask. Chen Ning softly said. Her eyes fell onto the teacup. Strange, I clearly gave him some medicinal tea, so why didn't it have any effect? It's a good thing this peacock's spreading tail is very strong. Xiao Ru was stunned for a moment before she reacted. Young miss, do you know this white-eyed wolf isn't a good person? Did you already give him the medicine? Did you purposely tell him that story about the ingrate? Chen Ning giggled and said, that's right. Could it be that you think this master isn't as good as this disciple? This servant is stupid. This servant should have thought of this earlier. If even I can see it, then eldest miss, you must have seen it long ago. This little ingrate has been lying to us from the beginning, right? Xiao asked in at Xiao Bao, Xiao Bao, Xiao Bao. Chapter 1042. Xiao Ru was suddenly enlightened. She forcefully patted her head. This servant is really stupid, I couldn't see through it at all. Chen Ning then said, after getting on the carriage, you gave him a lot of candied fruits to eat, but he didn't eat a single one. This made me even more suspicious. What child doesn't like eating candies and snacks? I paid attention to him and found that his eyes were always looking at me. He didn't seem to be drooling over the candies at all. How was that the eyes of a child? So, I knew that this little white-eyed wolf wasn't simple, so I gave him a cup of medicinal tea. I never thought that it wouldn't work, so Zhui Feng was also wronged. Zhui Feng's acupuncture point had been sealed and he couldn't move, but his eyes and ears could still see and hear clearly. When he saw Xiao Bao trying to kill Chen Ning, he was so anxious that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He was cursing Xiao Ru in his heart. If he could move his hands and feet, the first person he would kill would be that little white-eyed wolf and the second would be Xiao Ru. Even now, he was still using a fierce gaze to stare at Xiao Ru as he panted heavily. But Xiao Ru didn't notice him at all. Missy, what is this peacock spreading its tail? It's so strong. This servant didn't see you make a move, so how did these needles suddenly land on that little white-eyed wolf's body? Ha, ha, that white-eyed wolf turned into a hornet's nest, how interesting. Xiao Ru clapped her hands and laughed. It's a secret for now. Chen Ning smiled and looked down at Xiao Bao on the ground. Xiao Bao's face turned green and purple. Hearing Chen Ning and her servant teasing him, his lungs were about to explode from anger. White-eyed wolf, are you feeling very uncomfortable right now that you can't die even if you want to? Chen Ning suddenly said. Xiao Bao bit his lips and did not say a word as he tightly closed his eyes. He really couldn't die even if he wanted to. If he still had strength left in his body, he would definitely bite the poison pill in his mouth to commit suicide, but he didn't even have that bit of strength left. Just now, when the peacock spread its tail, he was not prepared at all. The large cluster of silver needles had pierced his body at least 10 times, and each needle was fed with a special medicine. It made him feel pain, itch, and powerless. He could not live, but he could not die. Although you want my head, I don't want your head. I won't let you die. Chen Ning slowly said. Xiao Bao suddenly felt his body go numb. He opened his eyes and saw the smile on Chen Ning's face. He did not know why, but his heart suddenly felt a chill. What are you going to do to me? He struggled to say these words. Of course I won't do anything to you, but wouldn't it be too easy for you to just let you go like this? So, I will give you an unforgettable lesson. In the future, don't pretend to be a child to deceive people. This is not a good habit, understand? Chen Ning giggled as she spoke in a tone like she was coaxing a child. She even bent down and patted his head. The chill in Xiao Bao's heart grew heavier. He had never been afraid of anything, but for some reason, when he saw the young woman's flower-like smile, he suddenly felt that she was terrifying. Xiao Bao, be good, don't be afraid. It's not like I'll kill you or scold you, he. Chen Ning smiled as she stood up. Xiao Bao couldn't help shivering again. He stared straight at Chen Ning and hissed, what exactly do you want? Chen Ning blinked her eyes. Chapter 1043. Chen Ning's words stunned Xiao Bao and Xiao Ru. Xiao Ru was very obedient. She quickly followed Chen Ning's orders to take off Xiao Bao's clothes. Xiao Bao was completely stunned. He did not dare believe his ears as he stared at Chen Ning. It wasn't until Xiao Ru took off his clothes, revealing his white skin and the wind blew against his chest that he realized what had happened. God, he would rather die than suffer this kind of humiliation. Chen Ning calmly looked at him. Seeing his instantly blushing face, she began to chuckle. I can't tell, this little white-eyed wolf still has a bit of shame. Look at how red his face is. It's just taking off your clothes, what is there to be embarrassed about? Could it be that when you came out of your mother's womb, you were also wearing clothes? I'm going to kill you. Xiao Bao gritted his teeth. Next time, you won't have a chance this time. Chen Ning gave an uncaring smile. She said to Xiao Ru, keep taking off. Yes, young miss. Xiao Ru went to take off his pants again. He was just a little boy, so she had nothing to be embarrassed about, so her actions were very quick. I won't let you go. You. Just wait to die under my hands. I definitely won't let you die comfortably. I will use the most vicious method in the world to torture you, I will. Xiao Bao saw Xiao Ru's hands taking off his pants and his entire body felt bad. His delicate and cute face turned as red as a purple eggplant and his eyes popped out as he cursed out. Xiao Ru, his mouth is dirty. Use a sock to stuff it in his mouth. Chen Ning said again. Yes, young miss. Xiao Ru held back her laughter. She picked up the sock she had just taken off and prepared to stuff it in Xiao Bao's mouth. Xiao Bao was so angry that his stomach was about to burst. He stared right at Chen Ning, wishing his eyes could pierce a hole through her face. Chen Ning smiled at him and then said, wait a minute, use Shui Feng's sock. Ah. Why? Xiao Ru revealed a look of confusion. Woo, the smell is quite strong. Chen Ning said while holding back her laughter. Shui Feng's face also turned as red as a purple eggplant. His face turned red as he watched Xiao Ru walk beside him. She took off his shoes and then his socks. This. What kind of smell is this? Shui Feng, how long has it been since you last washed your feet? Woo, young miss, I'm going to vomit. Xiao Ru only took off one of Shui Feng's socks before she turned her head. Shui Feng couldn't take it and turned. He really couldn't remember how long it had been since he last washed his feet. He had been brewing medicine in Dr. Zhang's palace and guarding Chu Xiaobai, not to mention his feet, he hadn't even taken a bath. Alright, shove it into that ungrateful wolf's mouth. Chen Ning also held her breath. Xiao Bao's eyes almost popped out as he watched Xiao Ru walk over with the sock in her hand. He wanted to curse out, but Xiao Tao suddenly shoved the sock into his mouth. Xiao Ru's eyes widened as she looked at Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao's Rao Si Ming Feng said. Long in his Xiao Ru Xiao Ming in his face. Xiao Bao Ling Ling Chen Ling said Ling's Ling Xiao Ru moved quickly and in the blink of an eye, Xiao Bao was only left with his underwear. Xiao Bao, RS. Although the other side looked like a 7 or 8-year-old boy, Xiao Ru still felt a bit embarrassed. This servant. Xiao Ru's face turned red. Chapter 1044. After Shui Feng's acupuncture point was sealed, he had been secretly using his internal energy to open his acupuncture point. As a secret guard, he had a method to open his own acupuncture point. Last time he had been ambushed by Chu Xiaobai, he had opened his own acupuncture point. Seeing Shui Feng regain his freedom of movement, Chen Ning and Xiao Ru let out a sigh of relief. But then... Ah! Xiao Ru let out a long cry of surprise as she covered her face with her hands. Although Xiao Bao was young, he was still a boy. Seeing a naked body in front of her, she was too embarrassed to look at it. Chen Ning giggled as she looked at Xiao Bao. Xiao Bao's mouth was gagged and he couldn't say a word. His body turned cold, especially when he saw Chen Ning's eyes moving over his body. He wanted to die from shame. But when he saw Chen Ning's evil expression, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. Damn! She wouldn't want to turn him into a eunuch, right? If it really was like this, he would rather die. Woo, 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 woo. He desperately twisted his body as he let out an angry and fearful sound. He heard Chen Ning say with a faint smile, "Shui Feng, bring the carriage to a place with a lot of people and hang this naked little white-eyed wolf on a tree. Let the people passing by see this white-eyed wolf's naked appearance." What? No. He didn't want it. Xiao Bao's eyes suddenly popped out as his eyes filled with fear. Shui Feng was also a bit surprised. According to his intentions, he wanted to take this brat's dog life with a single slash, but seeing that the Empress didn't have any intentions of killing him, he couldn't say it. However, thinking about it, the Empress' move was even worse than taking this brat's life. Yes, Miss Chen, there is a town in front of us. Can this subordinate hang him on the city gates? Shui Feng thought about it and then added a sentence. Very good. Shui Feng, your mind is becoming more and more flexible. Chen Ning smiled as she praised him. Xiao Bao's eyes turned white when he heard this and he almost fainted. Let me die. Let me die. I would rather die than be humiliated like this. He angrily roared out in his heart. It was a pity that the three people in the carriage could not hear him. A snow-white and smooth body was hung high above the city gate where people were coming and going. Xiao Bao had already fainted from anger. He didn't even know how he ended up there. However, when he woke up in a daze, he heard incessant discussions around him. TSK, public morals are degenerating day by day. Nowadays, even children have become shameless. Isn't that so? Look at his fair skin, he doesn't look so poor that he can't even afford clothes. He was doing something bad and was stripped naked by someone. TSK, at such a young age, you think I'm going to be a rapist? You're really a disgrace to your family. When little Bao opened his eyes, he saw that the ground below him was densely packed with human heads. All of them were looking up at him. When the wind blew, his body swayed, and his whole body felt cold from head to toe. He suddenly remembered that he had been stripped clean before he fainted. His vision darkened and he almost fainted again. Help! Put me down! He wanted to scream, but his mouth was stuffed with a sock that was more sour and smellier than a salted fish. He almost vomited when he opened his mouth. Woo woo woo. He struggled and twisted like a fish. Chapter 1045. He saw everyone pointing at him with looks of disdain and ridicule, but no one put him down. He was like a stinky salted fish hanging on the city gate, being watched by everyone. From head to toe, there was not a single thing he could hide from. Those strange gazes made him feel ashamed and he wished he could smash his head against the city gate. He had never encountered such a shameful moment in his life. While he was in this awkward situation where he couldn't live or die, a group of black-clothed men separated the crowd. They walked to the city gate and looked up. Ah! It's the young master. God, how did the young master become like this? Quickly put the young master down. The black-clothed men recognized Xiao Bao who was hanging on the city gate and their expressions all changed. When Xiao Bao heard the familiar voice of his subordinate, he felt even more ashamed. His eyes turned white and he fainted again. Whether it was real or fake, in this kind of awkward situation, it was better to faint and not know anything. When Xiao Bao woke up again, the poison needles in his body had already been sucked out by his black-clothed subordinates using magnets. He no longer felt itchy and his limbs had regained their strength. It seemed like he had taken the antidote. He moved his body and suddenly sat up on the bed, finding that he had returned to a familiar place. He jumped down from the bed and shook his neck. He took a deep breath. He heard the crackling of his bones, and his body that looked like a 7 or 8-year-old child began to change. He slowly became taller and taller, finally turning into a tall and slender young man. His face was like a completely different person. Even if Chen Ning and Xiao Ru saw his face, they would not be able to recognize this enchanting face filled with killing intent. This was the snow-white and cute Xiao Bao. He casually grabbed a piece of clothing and put it on, but he could not get rid of the burning feeling on his face. Although everyone had seen his 7 or 8-year-old body, he still found it hard to bear. "Stinky girl, just you wait. If I can let you die a good death, I'll." He gritted his teeth and gave a fiendish laugh. Achoo! Achoo! In the carriage, Chen Ning suddenly sneezed twice. She looked out the window with a bit of doubt, but there was no wind at all. Xiao Ru quickly took out a cloak and put it on her. "Young miss, why did you hang that little white-eyed wolf on the tree? He's so bad, why didn't you just kill him? If you let him go like this, wouldn't that be letting him off too easily? If he comes back to take revenge, what would you do?" Xiao Ru rubbed her chin and spoke in a puzzled voice. Shui Fang's hand that was whipping the carriage slightly paused and his ears perked up. He also couldn't understand this logic. On this point, he agreed with Little Ru's idea. It would be better to just directly kill him and end it all. Chen Ning picked up something and gave it to Xiao Ru. Chen Ning picked up something to give to Xiao Ru. It was a shoe that Xiao Bao was wearing. It had a black upper, and a small cloud was embroidered with dark purple thread on the upper. If Chen Ning hadn't pointed it out, Xiao Ru really wouldn't have noticed it. "Xiao Qin. What's so strange about it?" Xiao Ru scratched her head, still confused. Chen Ning knew that she did not understand, so she raised her voice and said, "Shui Feng, come in and look at this." Chapter 1046. Seeing the purple cloud on the shoe, Shui Feng's pupils suddenly shrank. "Purple Heaven Pavilion," he blurted out. Then he nervously looked left and right, his face filled with caution. You also know about the Purple Heaven Pavilion?" Chen Ning asked in a curious voice. The first time she heard of this name was from Na Mu Kuo. The scene of the assassin from the Purple Heaven Pavilion sneaking into the guest house was still fresh in her mind. At that time, she was hiding on the bed and saw the cold glint of the blade and the threatening killing intent. If it wasn't for Na Mu Kuo arriving in time, her head would have been separated from her body. She had always thought that the person the Purple Heaven Pavilion was looking for was Na Mu Kuo and not her. She never would have thought that she would meet someone from the Purple Heaven Pavilion on the way out of the capital. Moreover, their goal was very clear, they wanted her life. This subordinate knows. This subordinate wants to take a look at this shoe again. Shui Feng swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His body was still tense and his entire body was in a state of alert. "All right." Chen Ning threw Xiao Bao's shoe to Shui Feng. Shui Feng held it in his hand and looked at it for a while. The more he looked, the more serious his expression became. This subordinate can conclude that the person who pretended to be a child to assassinate you is an assassin from the Purple Heaven Pavilion. Moreover, his rank is not low, he is not a normal assassin. Shui Feng said. "Oh, how did you see that?" Chen Ning asked. This subordinate has only heard that the assassins of the Purple Heaven Pavilion are mysterious and unfathomable, each of them appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Almost no one has ever seen their true faces. The only thing people know is that all of their assassins have a symbol, which is that they will use purple thread to embroider a cloud on an inconspicuous place on their body. Although the pattern of the cloud is similar, it represents the identity and status of the assassin in the pavilion. Look, there are 5 clouds on this shoe, while ordinary assassins only have 3. Zhui Feng placed the shoe in front of Chen Ning. Chen Ning took a look and it really was 5 small clouds. She thought back to the purple cloud she saw in the guest house last time and it was 3. You're right. I never thought that this little ingrate would have such a high status even though he looks so young. She thoughtfully said. Zhui Feng said with a serious expression, he shouldn't be young, but he is using a rare bone shrinking technique in the martial arts world. He can shrink his bones to look like a 5 or 6-year-old, but he should be at least 20 years old. 20 years old. Xiaoru let out a surprised cry and her face was filled with disbelief. She looked at Zhui Feng with a stutter. Is what you said true? Does he look like a child? He looks like a child. Zhui Feng solemnly nodded to her. Although I haven't practiced this bone shrinking technique, I have heard of it. It is completely different from the common bone shrinking techniques in Jianghu. Not only can it shrink the bones and make the body look like a child, it can even make the face return to that of a child. It is said that this technique is called a bone shrinking rejuvenation. It has been lost in Jianghu for a long time. I have only heard of it and have never seen it before. It is said that it takes at least 20 years of practice to reach the stage of rejuvenation. So if he started practicing this martial art when he was 5 or 6 years old, then he should be at least 25 or 26 years old now. Xiao Feng. So that means that Xiao Bao is already Xiao Ru stuttered, unable to finish. Chapter 1047. Xiao Ru let out a woo sound and almost fainted. A 25 to 26-year-old man. She recalled that she had hugged this man and even held him in her arms to comfort him. She had even openly stripped him of his clothes. Not only had she stripped his clothes, but she had also taken off his pants. She had thought that the other side was a 5 to 6-year-old boy, but who would have thought that the other side was a man? This was simply too embarrassing. For a moment, she wanted to find a hole to hide in. Zhui Feng ignored her and turned to look at Chen Ning. Empress, this subordinate has something that I don't know if I should ask. Although there was no one around, Zhui Feng still lowered his voice. Ask. How did you offend the people from the Purple Heaven Pavilion? According to this subordinate's knowledge, although the Purple Heaven Pavilion is a mysterious and unfathomable assassin organization, and they take people's money to eliminate disasters, they do not accept any business. It is said that they have never accepted business from the people of the imperial family, and the assassin who knew the bone-shrinking skill just now was clearly targeting you. His goal was to take your life. This is what this subordinate does not understand. Zhui Feng had already understood everything and was even more shocked by the assassination methods of the Purple Heaven Pavilion. It was said that the Purple Heaven Pavilion never failed to kill and it was impossible to guard against. Today, he had personally witnessed it. That assassin had used a plan within a plan. He had shrunk his bones to look like a 5 to 6-year-old boy and deliberately let himself be caught by the 4 villains, pretending to be the victim. Even he had been tricked by him. If it wasn't for the Empress seeing through his deception and using the peacock tail to stop him, then the one lying in the carriage right now would be the Empress' headless corpse. Even if the assassin didn't kill him, he wouldn't be able to protect his master. How could he have the face to live in this world? Once he thought of this, a chill ran down his back and a layer of goosebumps appeared. What he couldn't understand was why the assassin from the Purple Heaven Pavilion didn't look for anyone else but Chen Ning. The other side clearly knew who she was, but they still wanted to kill her. If they really provoked the Purple Heaven Pavilion, then it would be a big problem that they couldn't get rid of. It could be said that there would be endless troubles. If this assassination didn't succeed, then there would be another one. Moreover, it would be stronger and harder to guard against. The other side was in the dark and they were in the light. They didn't know how many people there were and he was the only one who knew martial arts. How could he protect the Empress? This was a big problem that gave him a headache. Regarding his question, not only did he not understand, Chen Ning also did not understand. The only thing she could think of was the failed assassination attempt by Zixiao Pavilion last time. Could it be that their target was her? Not Na Mu Kyo. I don't know. Last time at the courier station, a group of assassins from Purple Heaven Pavilion broke into the courier station and tried to assassinate Na Mu Kyo's men. At that time, one of the assassins wanted to kill me, but he was killed by Na Mu Kyo. Could it be that they thought I was one of Na Mu Kyo's men? That's why you're doing it again after failing last time. After thinking about it, she felt that this was the only reason. She didn't know martial arts, had no enemies, and had no contact with people in Jianghu. How could she attract the attention of a killer from Purple Cloud Pavilion? Chapter 1048. Xiaoru suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. You mean, if they didn't harm the young miss this time, they will do it again? She said in a trembling voice. Zhui Feng nodded with a serious expression. Empress, no matter what the reason is, since the Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins have their eyes on you, then this subordinate would like to suggest that we immediately return to the capital and ask the Emperor to send more people to protect your safety. This subordinate is only one person, I'm afraid I can't protect the Empress. He spoke the truth. Facing the mysterious Purple Heaven Pavilion, he really didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. Chen Ning didn't even think about it before rejecting his proposal. Return to the capital. No, I'm going to find the Divine Doctor, I definitely won't give up halfway. If I return to the capital now, Xiao Bai can't be saved. But, Empress, your safety is more important. If the Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins come again, this subordinate really doesn't have the confidence. Zhui Feng still wanted to persuade her. Chen Ning didn't wait for him to finish and confidently said, Don't worry, that assassin won't appear in a short period of time. That's impossible. The Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins won't give up until they reach their goal. Zhui Feng knit his brows. If this subordinate knew that he was someone from the Purple Heaven Pavilion, then this subordinate would have killed him with a single slash. Then I would have melted his corpse and destroyed all traces, making it so that the people from the Purple Heaven Pavilion wouldn't be able to find him. The more he thought about it, the more he regretted it. Zhui Feng, I didn't say that he would give up his goal, I only said that he wouldn't come to kill me in a short period of time. Chen Ning raised her eyebrows and revealed a faint smile. Xiaoru asked me why I didn't kill him with a single slash because I knew that if we really killed him, then we would be in big trouble that we couldn't get rid of. It was because I found out that he was someone from the Purple Heaven Pavilion that I let him go. Think about it, since this is an organized and conspiratorial assassination, if he disappeared without a trace, would the people of Purple Heaven Pavilion not think that this was done by us? Would they let me go? Of course not, they would come out in full force and fight to the death with me. So, I didn't kill him. I let him go and then used that kind of method to humiliate him. If you were him, would you tell this kind of shameful thing to others? Zhui Feng's mouth fell wide open, not knowing what to say. Are you sure you wouldn't? Zhui Feng asked with a smile. Zhui Feng nodded. This kind of shameful matter, he wished he could keep it in his stomach and not tell anyone else. Since he won't tell anyone, then next time, he will definitely come to take revenge on me alone. Only he has been poisoned by my peacock tail opening, and Imo Chuan said that the medicine in the needle was specially refined. Even if his organization has the antidote, it won't be easy to cure him of the poison. Once he recovers, the Divine Doctor will be our back to the palace. What we will be need to be the Divine Doctor? Feng said with a faint smile. Her words immediately calmed Zhui Feng down. The more he thought about it, the more reasonable he felt. His heart, which had been in his throat, fell into his stomach. However, we still have to be careful on the road. Miss Xiaoru, it's best if you put away your merciful heart and don't randomly save people. You almost killed the Empress this time, do you know that? Shui Feng had a serious expression as he stared at Xiao Ru. If it wasn't for the fact that Xiao Ru was a girl, he would have already taught her a lesson. Chapter 1049. Young miss, this servant has let you down. It's all this servant's fault, it's all this servant's fault. This servant won't save anyone in the future. No matter who it is, this servant won't save a single person. Xiao Ru cried as she threw herself into Chen Ning's embrace. Chen Ning stroked her hair and comforted her. Xiao Ru, this matter isn't your fault. Saving people was the right thing to do, naturally you should save a good person. In this world, there will always be more good people than bad people, right? Even if you save another white-eyed wolf, there's no need to be afraid. Next time we'll skin him and make you a wolf skin mattress. You can sit on it every day, alright? Alright. Xiao Ru's tears turned into a smile. Because of this accident, Shui Feng was very cautious and careful on his way. He did not dare close his eyes every night, afraid that something would happen if he was not careful. Whenever there was a slight movement, he would open his eyes wide and look around vigilantly. In less than 2 days, he had a pair of panda eyes with sunken eye sockets. His face was haggard and his eyes were bloodshot. He was even thinner, just like a bamboo pole with clothes on it. If the wind was a bit stronger, he would be blown away. Although Chen Ning said that the Purple Heaven Pavilion's assassins would not come in the short term, Shui Feng thought of the Emperor's warning before he left and did not dare slack off at all. Shui Feng, you don't need to be so paranoid. If you don't sleep like this and an assassin really comes, do you have the confidence to beat him? Chen Ning had tried to persuade him several times, but he still stubbornly insisted. Every night, he would hold his sword and guard their roof, keeping his eyes open until dawn. However, this question stumped him. He gritted his teeth and said, "This subordinate will protect your safety with my life." Chen Ning couldn't help shaking her head. Shui Feng's wooden head really gave her a headache. He was loyal and meticulous, but if he was too rigid and stubborn, he would be pedantic. If you don't sleep like this, in less than 2 days, without an assassin coming, your body will be as weak as a scarecrow and you will fall down. If you fall down, who will protect me and Xiao Ru? How will you explain this to the Emperor? So, your body is the most important asset. You have to eat your fill and sleep well to have enough strength and energy to fight, do you understand? Chen Ning was like teaching a primary school student. Shui Feng seemed like he understood. What if this subordinate falls asleep and the assassin comes? I have my own methods. Chen Ning rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. You can go to bed in the future, I don't need you to keep watch. She released the aura of an empress and Shui Feng did not dare not listen. 2 days later, Chen Ning found that there were more and more people and carriages on both sides of the road. She couldn't help feeling this was strange. Thinking about it, he guessed the reason. Shui Feng, are we reaching the place where the godly doctor lives? Shui Feng stopped his whip and turned around to reply, that's right. Head east 70 miles and there is a small valley. The godly doctor's medical hut is inside and these people should be going to find the godly doctor to cure them. Xiao Ru looked at the endless stream of carriages and people and couldn't help clicking her tongue. She called out, then let's hurry over. Seeing that they were about to reach their destination, Shui Feng became excited. He raised his whip and drove the carriage quickly, passing several carriages in a short while. Chapter 1050. Looking forward, there was a long line of carriages that they couldn't see the end of. Moreover, after waiting for a long time, the carriages in front of them did not move at all. Shui Feng couldn't help saying, this subordinate will go ask around and see what is happening in front. Chen Ning nodded. Shui Feng jumped off the carriage and used his qinggong to run forward. Not long after, he ran back with a strange expression on his face. What is happening in front? Is the road collapsing and is there a roadblock? Chen Ning asked. No. Shui Feng shook his head. These people are all here to see the divine doctor. Xiao Ru took in a cold breath. That many. She stood on the carriage and stood on her tiptoes to look forward. She saw a long line of carriages that stretched far into the distance and she couldn't see the front at all. Not to mention the divine doctor's medical hut, there wasn't even a shadow of a mountain valley to be seen. Are all these carriages lined up? Chen Ning asked. Shui Feng nodded. That's right, this subordinate ran to the entrance of the mountain valley in one breath. With a rough estimate, there are at least 2,000 carriages lined up in front of us. This subordinate asked the people in front of us and they said that they have been lining up for 3 days and 3 nights, but the divine doctor's speed is very fast. The people lining up at the entrance of the mountain valley should be here in another half a day. Over 2,000 carriages. Why are there so many people here? Xiao Ru gave a surprised cry as her mouth opened wide. Then she became depressed. Young miss, how long do we have to line up for? Do we have to wait here for 3 days and 3 nights as well? The divine doctor is very famous, there are people coming from all over to see him every day. No matter what time they come, they have to line up to see him. Even if we wait for 3 days and 3 nights, we don't know if we can invite the divine doctor. Shui Feng looked at the long line of carriages and gave a long sigh. He didn't have much confidence in his heart and now his hopes were even slimmer. There were many people coming from thousands of miles to see a doctor, but they wanted to invite the divine doctor to the capital city. They came empty-handed and they didn't even bring a gift. It would be strange if they could invite the divine doctor. Miss Chen, this subordinate thinks we should prepare a gift. This way we can ask the divine doctor to treat us. If we just come here like this, I'm afraid the divine doctor won't like us. Shui Feng carefully suggested. Along the way, he had seen many carriages with gifts on them, but their carriage was the only one that had nothing. Xiao Ru also nodded, expressing her agreement. That's right, young miss, we should also prepare a gift. Gift? What gift do you want to prepare? What gift do you want to prepare? What does he like? What does he like? Chen Ning softly said, you have to give him something he likes. We don't know anything about this godly doctor, can you guarantee that the gift you give him will be to his liking? Sometimes, it might even touch on his taboo. What's more, he has the title of the world's #1 divine doctor. What gift in this world can enter his eyes? Her questions made Shui Feng and Xiao Ru speechless. Then are we going to invite him empty-handed? Xiao Ru said. Chapter 1051. Xiao Ru and Shui Feng looked at each other, feeling confused. They did not understand what Chen Ning's words meant. Young miss, your meaning is that we're not going to invite him? Xiao Ru scratched her head and asked. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, of course we have to invite him, but we have to see if his medical skills are as amazing as the legends say. Shui Feng, Xiao Ru, let's go take a look. Look? How do we look? Can't the carriage go through? Xiao Ru said in a daze. Silly girl, of course the carriage can't go through, but don't we have 2 legs? Let's go. Chen Ning jumped off the carriage and walked forward. Xiao Ru was stunned and found that Chen Ning was telling the truth. She gritted her teeth and jumped off the carriage, closely following behind Chen Ning. Shui Fang's eyes swept over the carriage. He put his bag on his back and followed. The 3 of them followed the long line of carriages. They didn't need to ask for directions, they just needed to follow the direction of the carriages. The carriages were very long and Shui Feng wanted to use his qinggong to carry the 2 of them. With his qinggong, it wouldn't take long for them to reach the valley, but Chen Ning rejected him without any hesitation. She would rather walk like this. Along the way, they could hear quite a few stories about the godly doctor from the people who came to see them. It was just that those people were talking about him as if he was an immortal in the heavens. Along the way, they had heard more than a dozen examples of him curing people to death and reviving bones. When they first heard it, Xiaoru's mouth turned into a circle and she did not close it at all. She kept letting out exclamations, "Really? This is too mysterious." Hearing this, even the alarmed Xiaoru became expressionless. "Young miss, why does this servant feel like this godly doctor is a swindler the more I hear?" Xiaoru couldn't help whispering as she revealed a look of doubt. Chen Ning's lips couldn't help twitching. "Tell me, why does he seem like a swindler?" Xiaoru said, "That person just said that the godly doctor can cut open a person's chest and dig out the heart before putting it back. If a person doesn't have a heart, wouldn't they die immediately? This servant doesn't believe it. How could there be this kind of medical skill in this world?" Her face was filled with disbelief. Chen Ning did not say anything before Zhui Feng said, "This subordinate also doesn't believe it. Some people said that the godly doctor cut open a pregnant woman's stomach to take out the fetus. Once the stomach is cut open, how could a person survive? Can't believe it, can't believe it. The rumors of the swindler really are all exaggerated." His face also revealed a look of disapproval. Chen Ning said with a faint smile, "The medical skills you're talking about, I've seen it with my own eyes. If this divine doctor really has this kind of skill, then he really can be called the #1 divine doctor in the world." She looked to the front and she had her eyes. This was because some of the cases mentioned by the crowd were indeed unimaginable to them, but as someone who came from the modern era, she didn't find it surprising at all. Feng. Yun Xiao Feng was not other words. A doctor would not have thought. Could it be that the #1 genius doctor in the world was like him, a transmigrator from the modern world? If that was really the case, then it would be more hopeful for her to ask him to return to the capital to save the people. Seeing that they were both transmigrators, he couldn't very well reject her request, right? Chapter 1052. Chen Ning secretly laughed at her own whimsical thoughts. Xiaoru and Zhui Feng were shocked speechless by her. The two of them stared at her. After a while, Xiaoru swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, "Young miss, have you really seen this kind of medical skill before? Cutting open a person's stomach to take out a baby. Is that baby still alive?" Chen Ning nodded, but she didn't say anything else. She knew that in the eyes of the people of this era, surgery from the modern era would definitely be considered shocking. The three of them walked until dusk before they finally saw the valley in front of them. There were still carriages lined up at the entrance of the valley. They continued to follow the carriages into the valley. This was a small valley surrounded by mountains on three sides. It wasn't too big, but the environment was very quiet. The sunset shined on the side of the mountains, covering the entire valley in a light red veil. The little valley was covered in a faint red mist. Looking into the distance, the scenery was very beautiful. So beautiful. Xiaoru couldn't help praising it. Chen Ning also felt relaxed. She secretly thought that the godly doctor had chosen a good place. It was simply a paradise. Once she stepped into the valley, she felt that the air was very fresh. Taking a deep breath, her chest felt very comfortable. Her entire heart calmed down and she felt an indescribable sense of comfort. She looked around and saw that the valley was surrounded by medicine gardens. There was a blue stone path in the middle that led into the depths of the valley. She could see several cottages at the end of the stone path that were bathed in the light of the setting sun. It could be assumed that those cottages were the godly doctor's medical hut. All of the carriages were parked at the entrance of the valley. The blue stone path from the entrance to the medical hut was filled with people waiting to see the doctor. With a single glance, there were at least several hundred people. The strange thing was that everyone was silent. Other than the chirping of birds, there was no sound of people in the entire valley. Xiaoru had many questions she wanted to ask, but seeing that the people in the line were all silent like mutes, she didn't dare say anything. She could only secretly pull on Chen Ning's sleeve. "Young miss, why aren't they saying anything? Are they all mutes?" She was still a child and couldn't hold back her words. Hearing this, Chen Ning couldn't help glaring at her. She didn't even have time to scold her before someone heard Xiaoru's words. Little miss, is this your first time coming to the Godly Doctor Valley?" An old man in the line smiled as he spoke. Not only was he not angry, his expression was very kind. His voice was very low, it was clearly he had lowered it on purpose. Xiaoru stuck out her tongue and said in an embarrassed voice, "I'm sorry, old uncle, I didn't do it on purpose." How did you know it was our first time here?" "I didn't mean it." She also lowered her voice and said. The old man smiled and said in a low voice, "Because you don't know the rules of this valley, the Godly Doctor doesn't like people making noise. He likes silence, so all of us who live in the nearby villages know about it. Everyone spread the news to 10 to 100, so those who come to see the Godly Doctor don't talk loudly, so as not to disturb the Godly Doctor. So it's like this. But since we're so far away, it shouldn't be a problem for us to whisper here, right?" Xiaoru stuck out her tongue and looked at the medical hut in the distance. Chapter 1053. Chen Ning revealed a faint smile and said, "Many thanks for the old uncle's advice. This is indeed our first time coming to the Godly Doctor Valley, but this little girl still has a matter to ask the old uncle. I hope the old uncle can give me a pointer or two." The old man saw that she was elegant and had a soft voice. His heart already had a good impression of her. With a smile, he said, "Miss can ask away. I've heard that this Godly Doctor doesn't treat people of high status, people he doesn't like, and people who are skilled in martial arts. Is that true?" The old man nodded and said, "That's right, it's true." Chen Ning's eyes swept over the long line of people. Although she didn't know martial arts, she could still see that there were quite a few Jianghu practitioners in the line. There were even some people who were wearing rough clothes, but their waists were round and their faces were oily. With a single glance, she could tell that they were people who lived like princes. The old man followed Chen Ning's gaze and understood her meaning. He lowered his voice and said, "Miss, even if these people line up in front of the medical hut, the Godly Doctor will not treat them. No matter how much money they give, the Godly Doctor will not even pay them a single glance." Chen Ning asked in a strange voice, "Why is that?" "Since the Godly Doctor has the title of the #1 Godly Doctor in the world, doesn't he study medicine to save people? How did the officials, nobles, and people who know martial arts offend Sir Godly Doctor?" When the old man heard this, he looked over Chen Ning. Chen Ning had a natural expression as she let him look at her. She was wearing simple clothes, but she had an outstanding aura and grace. She was completely different from the people around her. The old man was very knowledgeable, so he could naturally see that she was not a normal person. He gave a sigh and said, "Miss, you don't need to hide it. Tell me the truth, are you also from an illustrious official family?" Chen Ning knew that she couldn't hide it from him, so she nodded. Old uncle's eyes are truly sharp. "Then, young lady, are you going to treat yourself, or are you going to treat the maidservant beside you? If it's you, this old man advises you not to waste time lining up. If it's your maid or manservant, the Godly Doctor will treat them. This little girl isn't treating myself, I just don't understand why the Godly Doctor would set down these 3 strange rules. Old uncle, can you tell me a thing or two?" Chen Ning politely asked. The old man didn't want to say it, but seeing Chen Ning's dignified expression and gentle voice, he didn't have the heart to reject her. "Young lady, you are a foreigner. Speaking of this matter, not many of our local residents know about it. However, this old man just happened to be from the same village as the godly doctor's mother, so I know the whole story. Speaking of which, this is something that happened many years ago. He sighed softly and raised his head. His pair of old eyes looked at the medical hut in the distance. Looking at the smoke rising from the chimney above the medical hut, he sank into memories of the past. Chapter 1054. Chen Ning asked, "What kind of uproar?" The old man gave a sigh and said, "That year, she was suddenly found out by her parents that she was pregnant and it had already been 3 months. She was an unmarried girl, but she suddenly had a child in her stomach. Her parents flew into a rage and forced her to tell them who the father of the child was. If she didn't tell them, they would beat her to death to clear up the family's name. The people in the village were even more noisy, suggesting that they should drown her in a pig cage. She couldn't resist and told her parents the name of the father of the child in her stomach. When her parents heard this, they were shocked because the name she said was like thunder to their ears. It could be said that no one didn't know his name. He had a high status and great power. How could a person with such a high status be the father of a village girl's child? Her father did not believe her and kept asking, even using the life of the child in her stomach to interrogate her, but she insisted that the child's father was this person. She said that on a certain day 4 months ago, her parents had left home to visit relatives and she was the only one left at home. That day it was raining heavily, so she closed the door and was embroidering in her room. Suddenly, she heard a strange noise outside the door, so she opened her umbrella to take a look. She suddenly saw a wet young man come in from outside the door. When he saw her, he hugged her without saying anything and forcefully defiled her. After this, the man dared to take responsibility and left her a jade pendant. He told her his name and said that if she wanted him to take responsibility, she should take the jade pendant to the capital city to find him and he would give her an explanation. She was just a village girl, how could she have entered the capital city? She only remembered that man's name, but she did not dare tell her parents about this matter. She wanted to keep this matter in her stomach, but she never thought that she would get pregnant, so she couldn't hide it anymore. Her parents did not believe her, but when they saw the jade pendant she took out, they knew that this jade pendant was a rare item. Their village families definitely did not have this kind of thing, so they couldn't help but believe it. Because that man's status was very high, they were pleasantly surprised. They never thought that their daughter would have such a high status, so the two of them helped their daughter up and told the villagers the name of the father of their daughter's child. They also showed the jade pendant to everyone. The jade pendant had this person's name engraved on it, so the villagers were pleasantly surprised and congratulated them. So her parents chose an auspicious day and prepared a donkey cart to send their daughter to the capital city. They prepared to find that man and have him give their daughter a status. They knew that their daughter came from a poor family and that man's status was high above them, so they did not expect her to be his wife. They only hoped that they could give their daughter the status of a concubine. Their daughter would have someone to rely on and the child in her stomach would be born, so they would not be talked behind her back. Who would have thought that when they entered the capital and went to inquire about the man's manner? When they came to the door, who would have thought that not only did the man turn hostile and refuse to acknowledge her, but he also ordered the servants to beat her parents out of the house and smash the jade pendant. He said that there was no such thing, that she was deliberately slandering him, and that she was muddle-headed because she wanted to climb up a high branch. He also refused to admit that the child in her belly was his own flesh and blood, and was extremely humiliating to her. Chapter 1055. Hearing this, Xiao Ru's face turned red with anger. She tightly clenched her fists and forcefully waved them. This man is simply an animal. He's not human. He's heartless, he's even more of a white-eyed wolf. Also, that girl is truly pitiful. What happened after that? What happened to them after they returned to their hometown? Her eyes were filled with tears of sympathy. The old man wanted to tell her to keep her voice down, but when he saw her expression, he gently patted her shoulder and said, "Little girl, you have a good heart. The heavens will protect you." Saying this, he couldn't help giving a long sigh. He continued to speak. Originally, the villagers thought that after they entered the capital, they would reach the heavens in a single step. They never thought that the family of 3 would come back in such a sorry state. The ridicule, and insults were all over the place. Her father was already injured, and after being ridiculed by the villagers, he spat out blood and died on the spot. The girl's mother was also sick and she couldn't take out any money to treat her mother's illness. She could only watch as her mother left this world. She was filled with grief and almost didn't want to live anymore. Xiaoru gave an "ah" sound, and the tears that she had been holding back finally fell. She raised her sleeve to wipe her tears and said with a choked voice, "Is she all right? If she died, what would happen to the child in her stomach? Old uncle, quickly tell me, what happened to her?" After saying this, she patted her head again. "I'm really confused. Of course she didn't die, the child in her stomach is Mr. Godly Doctor." The old man laughed at her words and patted her head. Then his smile disappeared and he said with a serious expression, "That's right, she didn't die. Her parents passed away a few days ago, but she didn't have the money to bury them, so she knelt on the street and sold herself to bury her parents." Although the villagers pitied her, everyone knew that she was a woman touched by that important person and that she was pregnant with that important person's child. Who would have the guts to buy her? So she knelt on the street for an entire 3 days, but no one cared about her. Just when she was at her wit's end, a famous martial arts master passed by. He took pity on her and buried her parents for her. She was so grateful that she was willing to become the master's servant. But she didn't expect that the master was a hypocrite. He already had a wife and a son, but he took a fancy to her beauty. On the 3rd day after she gave birth, he broke into her room under the pretext of being drunk. After that, the master threatened her not to reveal this matter to anyone, or else he would kill her son. The glimmer of hope that had just been ignited in her life was once again extinguished. Ah! There is actually such a man that is worse than a beast in this world. This expert was even more inhuman than the man from before. This girl is too pitiful. Then what? Why did she not take the child and leave? She should have run far away. Don't tell me she's going to let others bully her like this. The more Xiaoru heard, the angrier she became. Her chest began to heave up and down. Chapter 1056. Who would have thought that she would go to the child's father's house? She thought that the man would take in the mother and son for the sake of the child, but she never thought that the man would not recognize her at all. He called the child in her arms a bastard and called her a cheap woman. He also mercilessly kicked the mother and son out. She held the child and cried in front of his door for an entire night, but the man did not even open the door. When the sun was about to rise, she was filled with despair. She wrote a blood letter and placed it in the baby's swaddling clothes. Then she threw the child into the moat and hung herself in front of the man's door. After the old man finished narrating the past, he had a serious expression and did not say a word for a long time. Chen Ning, Xiaoru, and Zhui Feng were all shocked by this true story. Zhui Feng's eyes had already popped out from listening to this. He wished he could slash out with his blade and cut the 2 men in the story that were worse than animals into 10,000 pieces. He lowered his voice. Who is this divine doctor's father? Who is that martial arts expert? Old uncle, tell me their names. The old man was shocked. Seeing his face filled with killing intent, how could he dare say anything? He just shook his head. This old man doesn't know. I really don't know. Zhui Feng grabbed the old man's wrist and angrily said, you clearly said that everyone knows that man's name and everyone knows it, but now you're saying you don't know. Quickly say it. The old man shrank his neck and said with a bitter expression, "Good man, please forgive this old man. Even if this old man had 120 guts, I wouldn't dare say his name. Although this old man is already old, this old man still has a family and this old man doesn't want to implicate them. Not to mention that this matter has already passed for so many years and even the divine doctor doesn't want to pursue it anymore. Why would a good man want to stand up for this old matter?" He had already seen through Zhui Feng's intentions and he couldn't help regretting mentioning the past. He had caused this kind of big trouble. "Zhui Feng, let go of this old uncle. Don't make it hard for this old man." Chen Ning suddenly spoke up. Zhui Feng let go of his hand, but his face was livid with anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "These two scum, they don't deserve to live in this world. If they fall into my hands, I will tear their corpses into 10,000 pieces." When the old man saw his fierce appearance, his body began to tremble in fear. He quickly said, "It has nothing to do with this old man doesn't know anything. Good man, please forgive me." Chen Ning said in a soft voice, "Old uncle, you don't need to be afraid, he won't harm you. You just said that even the godly doctor won't pursue this matter. This means that the godly doctor knows who the expert who harmed his mother was, right? You said that he was thrown into the moat, so how was he saved? How did he learn such good medical skills?" The old man was scared stiff by Zhui Feng and could only shake his head. No matter what Chen Ning asked, he tightly closed his mouth, not saying a single word. Chen Ning knew that she wouldn't be able to get anything out of him even if she kept asking, so she comforted the old man and led the two of them to the medical hut. Along the way, Xiao Ru's face was completely red from her anger. She wanted to ask the old man what happened several times, but she was stopped by Chen Ning. On the way, Xiao Ru's face was completely red from her anger. She wanted to ask the old man what happened several times, but she was stopped by Chen Ning. Chapter 1057. Zhui Feng's chest was filled with anger. He was thinking of a way to find out about this matter, but hearing this injustice, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Although many years had passed, as long as those two beasts were still alive, he would not let them go. Suddenly hearing Xiao Ru criticize him, Zhui Feng was stunned. "What about me?" he asked. "It's all your fault. Why did you scare the old uncle so fiercely? If you didn't scare him, the old uncle would have told us everything." Zhui Feng was stunned. He knew that he couldn't suppress his anger, but his chivalrous heart had been stirred up, so how could he control himself? "Sooner or later, I will find out the whereabouts of those two beasts, humph," he swore. "Xiao Ru, you can't blame Zhui Feng for this matter. Moreover, after you hear this, remember it and don't tell anyone else. Whether this matter is true or false, it has nothing to do with you, do you understand?" Chen Ning stopped and looked at the two of them as she spoke. "But why? Young miss, aren't you angry after hearing this? This godly doctor's mother is too pitiful. That great character and that martial arts expert are simply not human." Xiao Ru's face turned red as she spoke. "You only heard the old uncle's story, how do you know if it's true or false? He only heard it and did not see it with his own eyes, so what he heard might not be true. Perhaps there are other secrets to this matter." When Chen Ning heard this, she was also as angry as Xiao Ru. But when she calmly thought about it, she found that the matter was not as the old man said. If those two men really were scum of the world, with the godly doctor's current status, it would be easy for him to take revenge. He didn't even need to personally make a move. As long as he moved his mouth, there would be many people willing to take revenge for him. "Young miss, you mean that the old uncle was lying to us? His story wasn't true?" Xiao Ru's eyes opened wide. Chen Ning shook her head and said, he was telling the truth, he wasn't lying to us on purpose. But the story he told was not something he saw with his own eyes. He stayed in the village the entire time, so how did he know what happened to that girl in the capital city? He only heard it from others. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and this was the version that reached his ears. As for the truth of the matter, only the person involved knows. So, you better control your mouth and your hands. You can't speak nonsense and you can't act rashly. She looked at Zhui Feng with a faint gaze, with a warning look in her eyes. Zhui Feng's body turned cold and he said in a low voice, yes. When we enter the medical hut, Xiao Ru, you're not allowed to say a single word, do you understand? Chen Ning was not assured, so she warned Xiao Ru again. Xiao Ru closed her mouth and forcefully nodded. At this time, the three of them had already arrived in front of the medical hut. They saw a small courtyard surrounded by a low fence and there were several simple thatched huts in the courtyard. There was a pine board with tree bark on it and two simple words were carved on it, medical hut. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, it would be hard to believe that this simple and broken thatched hut was the residence of the famous godly doctor. Content with poverty, happy to be poor. Chapter 1058. On the way here, she had heard many people talk about the godly doctor's actions. They all said that not only was his medical skills divine, he also had a heart that saved people. If the patient could not take out the medical fee, not only would he not take a single cent, he would even give them the medicine. But if it was a patient that could not be treated, even if he took out 10,000 gold coins, he would not even stretch out a finger to take their pulse. Some people praised him to the heavens, saying that he was a godly doctor that had descended to the mortal world. There were also people that said that he did not save people and was a waste of being a doctor. But no matter if it was praise or criticism, the godly doctor remained calm and unmoved. He still followed his own routine, treating those that should be treated and those that should not be treated. Even if the other person died in front of him, he would not even bat an eye. He really is a respectable and mysterious strange doctor. Chen Ning thought in her heart. She wanted to hear more about the godly doctor's actions from everyone's mouths. Then she would find the right medicine and think of a way to move him. For a godly doctor like him, if he did not care about fame or profit and was content with being poor, even if she prepared a precious gift in front of him, he would not be moved at all. Since it was like this, she could only win by surprise. Chen Ning's group of three walked into the medical hut. They saw that the small courtyard was divided into two and both were filled with medicine. There were a total of 5 grass huts in the courtyard and a long line of people lined up in front of the middle grass hut. Hey, you three, did you get your number? You can't cut in line here. Suddenly, someone spoke to them from the side. Chen Ning looked over and found that there was a bamboo table beside the courtyard door. Behind the table was a 13-14-year-old young man who was looking at the three of them with a suspicious gaze. Do we need to line up here? Chen Ning asked. Of course, first come first served. If you don't have a number, then take this and come in when it's your turn. The young man picked up a pen and wrote down a number before handing it over to Chen Ning. Chen Ning did not take the paper and shook her head with a smile. Little brother, we are not here to see the godly doctor. Not here to see a doctor. Then what are you here for? The young man asked in a strange voice. We heard that Mr. Godly Doctor's medical skills are divine and can bring the dead back to life, so we came here to see Mr. Godly Doctor. Chen Ning said. The young man gave an "oh" sound and then waved his hand and said, My master will not see you. He is very busy and does not have time to see guests, so you should all go back. So you're saying that little brother is Mr. Godly Doctor's disciple? Chen Ning said with a faint smile. I'm not really master's disciple. I'm only responsible for running errands and brewing medicine. I'll have to wait at least 3 years for Master to accept me as a disciple. The young man looked depressed. Then can I ask how long has little brother been here? Chen asked again. I've been here for 3 years and 6 months, but Master said that my foundation is not stable yet, so I can't learn medicine from him. When the young man heard Chen Ning's pleasant voice, he couldn't help looking up at her. Seeing her beautiful and picturesque appearance, he was stunned. He had seen countless patients who came to see him, but this was the first time he had seen a girl with such an outstanding appearance like Chen Ning. His face turned red and his heart began to beat faster. Little brother, if you want to learn medicine from Mr. Godly Doctor, what are the requirements? Chen Ning seemed to have thought of something and her heart skipped a beat. Chapter 1059. Although this miracle physician valley wasn't big, it was filled with medicinal herbs. Chen Ning had seen it all along the way. She roughly counted, and there were at least 1,000 types of medicinal herbs. Hearing this, she revealed a faint smile. Is that so? Knowing the herbs is the first test, then what is the second test? The young man pointed at the book on the table and said with a sigh, Master said that I have to memorize every word in this book, but no matter how I memorize it, I can't memorize it. What is this book? Can I take a look? Chen Ning said in a warm voice. If it was anyone else, the young man would have refused without any hesitation. But he could not refuse Chen Ning's smiling eyes. He hesitated for a bit before saying, This is a book that explains acupuncture points. If you haven't studied medicine, you won't be able to understand it. Chen Ning smiled and nodded. She took the book and flipped through a few pages before she had an idea in her heart. The names of the acupuncture points in this book were similar to the ones in the medical book she was reading, but it was more detailed. Each acupuncture point was clearly marked and could be understood with a single glance. Although she didn't understand medicine, after looking at it a few times, her eyes lit up. Is this marked by Mr. Godly Doctor's handwriting? She pointed at the small characters beside the acupuncture point and asked the young man. That's right. It was written by my master. Master said that I have to memorize every word. The young man said with a bitter expression. Xiao Ru and Zhui Feng were filled with confusion. Weren't they here to invite the Godly Doctor? Why was their master trying to get close to a young man who wasn't even the Godly Doctor's disciple? If I can memorize all the herbs in this valley and memorize this book, can I become the disciple of the Godly Doctor? Chen Ning returned the book to the young man and revealed a look of interest in her eyes. The young man nodded and suspiciously looked at Chen Ning. That's what my master said. Miss, do you want to become my master's disciple? Chen Ning gave a non-committal smile. Little brother, we just want to see the Godly Doctor's medical skills. We'll just stand on the side and watch. We won't make a sound and disturb him. What do you think? After she chatted with the young man for a bit, the young man suddenly felt a sense of familiarity with her. If she had made this request in the beginning, the young man would have rejected her without any hesitation, but now he was a bit embarrassed and scratched his head. All right, then you can't make a single sound. My master doesn't like people talking or making a ruckus when he's seeing a patient. If you annoy my master, I'll be implicated. Many thanks, little brother. We definitely won't disturb the Godly Doctor. Xiao Ru smiled at the young man. She smiled and said, Xiao Ru, Ning. Xiao Ru couldn't help rolling her eyes at this young man. She thought, there are a lot of people who have lost their souls after seeing the young miss, but it's rare to see someone as young as you. Chen Ning walked over to the grass hut in the middle. Zhui Feng followed behind her and suddenly lowered his voice. He said in a voice that only she could hear, this subordinate can take the Godly Doctor away. The people here don't know any martial arts, so no one can stop this subordinate. Hearing this, Chen Ning suddenly stopped and turned around to look at Zhui Feng. Zhui Feng felt strange looking at her and his heart felt weak. Chapter 1060. Chen Ning let out a long sigh and said in a soft voice, "Zhui Feng, is your head made of wood?" Zhui Feng was stunned. Xiao Ru couldn't hold it in. She wanted to laugh, but looking around, she didn't dare laugh. She used her hand to cover her mouth and let out a choking sound. Zhui Feng's face turned red as he said, "Did this subordinate say something wrong?" Chen Ning gave a sigh and said in a low voice, "Use your brain to think. What kind of person is the divine doctor? If a random person who knew martial arts came and kidnapped him, would he still have such a big reputation? Do you think his 3 incursions are a joke? Without my orders, you're not allowed to do anything, do you understand?" Although her voice was low, her tone was very strict. Zhui Feng's face turned red as he said in a low voice, "This subordinate will obey." Chen Ning no longer paid attention to him. She turned around and walked in front of the grass hut. She stood outside the door and looked in. The grass hut was not big and was divided into 2 rooms. The outer room had a row of patients and the inner room was the divine doctor's room. The door and windows were open and Chen Ning could see a young man wearing linen clothes sitting by the window, currently taking the pulse of a patient. Chen Ning couldn't help being stunned. Could this linen-clothed young man be the world's #1 divine doctor? If it really was him, then wasn't he too young? Only half of the linen-clothed young man's face was revealed, but from this half of his face, she could see that this young man was only around 20 years old. His eyebrows were thin and his eyes were bright. He looked elegant and refined, like he was floating in the air. Xiao Ru and Zhui Feng were also stunned. The 2 of them rubbed their eyes at the same time and looked over at the young man. They did not believe that the person taking the pulse of a patient by the window was the famous divine doctor. This young man must be the divine doctor's disciple. As the world's #1 divine doctor, he could not be this young. The 2 of them looked around the room a few times and found that other than this young man, there were 2 17 to 18-year-old juniors standing behind the linen-clothed young man. They had respectful expressions and were very well behaved. They were stunned again. Looking at the 2 juniors, it was like a disciple talking to his master. Could this linen-clothed young man really be the divine doctor? The 2 of them immediately looked over at Chen Ning. They were both thinking in their hearts that this divine doctor was this young, he definitely did not have any skills. It looks like we've come here for nothing. Zhui Feng was even more disappointed. In his impression, a godly doctor should have a long beard and a sage-like appearance. How could it be this little brat in front of him who hadn't even grown his hair yet? Even if this brat started studying medicine when he was still in his mother's womb, how many books could he have read? What qualifications did he have to be called the #1 divine doctor in the world? He wasn't even worthy to be called the #1 divine doctor in the world. Among those experienced imperial physicians in the imperial hospital, which one of them had not been practicing medicine for decades? Which one of them had out a white beard? In Zhui Feng's impression, only the color of the beard and hair represented the depth of knowledge. The lighter the color, the deeper the knowledge. Zhui Feng's eyes were filled with disdain as he looked at the linen-clothed youth. If it wasn't for Chen Ning standing there without moving, he would have turned around and left, not wanting to stay here for another moment. Chen Ning stared at the hemp-clothed youth taking the patient's pulse without blinking. Chapter 1061. The linen-clothed youth took his pulse and then took back his hand. He picked up a pen and wrote a prescription on a piece of paper before handing it to a junior behind him. Boil the medicine according to this prescription. Boil 5 bowls of water into 1 bowl and immediately give it to the patient. His voice was low, but it was very pleasant to listen to. Yes, master. That junior obediently took the prescription and quickly walked out of the room. He did not even look at the people lined up outside as he directly went to the grass hut to boil the medicine. That junior was only 1 or 2 years younger than the linen-clothed youth, but he called the linen-clothed youth master. This meant that this linen-clothed youth was the godly doctor they were looking for. Xiao Ru's mouth opened wide, almost unable to close. This godly doctor. Wasn't he too young? Shui Feng's heart sank even more. He had a trace of hope that this linen-clothed youth was the godly doctor's disciple, but it seemed like he was the godly doctor himself. Humph, what number one godly doctor in the world, he's probably the number one swindler in the world. He hatefully said in his heart. Godly doctor, can this illness of mine really be cured? The linen-clothed youth was facing a 40-year-old middle-aged man. His face was filled with worry, he was as thin as a match, and his face was yellow without any blood. Although he was only 40 years old, his face was filled with wrinkles, making him look very old. Do you think that if I take this medicine, this stomach ache that has been tormenting me for over 10 years will be cured? His face was filled with a look of disbelief. As the saying goes, a stomach ache was not an illness, but the pain was fatal. Ever since he was in his 20s, he had been suffering from stomach pain. At the beginning, it was not too serious, but he was young, so he could endure it for a bit. Who would have thought that as the years passed, his stomach ache would become more and more serious? Not only was he suffering from this illness, his body was also becoming weaker and weaker. The linen-clothed youth nodded and softly said, "You don't have any serious illnesses, it's just that there are too many bugs in your stomach. Once you take this medicine and get rid of the bugs in your stomach ache will be cured." The middle-aged man was shocked as he said in a trembling voice, "Godly doctor, you're saying that there are bugs in my stomach? Am I going to die?" He was so scared that his face turned ashen. He was thinking that if there were bugs in his stomach, how could he still live? The youth said, "You won't die. These bugs won't kill you, but they will slowly wear down your body and absorb your nutrients. You can eat 5 steamed buns in one meal, but you're as thin as a match. In fact, everything you eat is absorbed by the bugs in your stomach. Once you get rid of the bugs, your body will slowly recover. You'll quickly regain your strength and become strong." He seemed to be very patient. His explanations were very precise and easy to understand. Even the patients around him who did not know anything about medicine could understand and nodded their heads repeatedly. Moreover, his attitude towards the patient was very natural and there was not the cold at all of it. He was very friendly and he looked at the patient and said, "Master, the medicine has been prepared." The young man from before came in with a bowl of thick medicinal soup. "Yes, give it to him. Take it while it's hot," the youth in linen said. The middle-aged man's hands trembled as he received the bowl of medicine. When the medicine cooled down, he steeled his heart and drank it in one gulp. Everyone's eyes stared at him. Their hearts were filled with surprise and curiosity. This was the first time they had heard of a person having bugs in their stomach, but this was a diagnosis from the godly doctor's mouth, so everyone believed it without a doubt. Chapter 1062. Shui Feng's lips curled into a cold smile as he looked at the linen-clothed youth. His eyes were filled with disdain. He gave a cold snort from his stomach, not believing a single word that the linen-clothed youth said. Bullshit godly doctor. He only knew how to deceive these pure and kind people. Listen to what lies he made up. He actually said that there were bugs in people's stomachs. This was simply nonsense. If people really had bugs in their stomachs, would they still be alive right now? Their intestines would have already been bitten by bugs and they would have died. He did not say a single word, preparing to expose this godly doctor's lies at any time. "My stomach hurts. Hurts. It hurts so much." The middle-aged man had not taken the medicine for long before his face suddenly changed. He bent down and hugged his stomach, rolling on the ground in pain. "Ha! Seeing this scene, everyone stood up simultaneously with a look of surprise on their faces. Shui Feng gave a cold laugh. What killing bugs, this was clearly killing people. Mingyu, help him to the guest room in the back courtyard. The linen-clothed youth calmly said to the junior. Then his eyes swept over the patients in the outer room and he said in a soft voice, next. The middle-aged man on the ground was helped out by the junior called Mingyu. His face had a painful expression and large drops of sweat fell from his forehead, not even being able to stand up straight. The patients watched him leave, their hearts on tenterhooks. Some people did not understand what a guest room was and couldn't help asking in a small voice, what kind of place is a guest room? Stupid, a guest room is a toilet. Someone rolled his eyes at him. That person suddenly realized. Godly doctor, please help me cure this illness. I simply don't want to live anymore. The person sitting in front of the linen-clothed youth was a veiled girl. She spoke with a sobbing tone and a tender voice, sounding very young. The linen-clothed youth looked at her. Take off your veil. The girl's body trembled. She looked at the people in the outer room and hesitated without moving. Godly doctor, your medical skills are this high, can you take my pulse? She said in a timid voice. The linen-clothed youth softly said, look, listen, question, and feel the pulse. When a doctor sees a patient, the first word is to look. The so-called look is to look at your complexion. This girl does not want this one to look at your complexion, so how can I diagnose your illness? The girl hesitated again. Shui Feng's heart filled with disdain towards the linen-clothed youth. This genius doctor was clearly a lecher. When he was treating the middle-aged man, he felt his pulse. When it was this young lady's turn, he forced her to take off her veil to look at her face. If this wasn't lecherous, then what was it? If you are not willing to take off your veil, please forgive me for not being able to diagnose you. Please go back. Next, the youth in linen clothes said expressionlessly. The lady was extremely embarrassed. She saw that everyone was looking at her with a reproachful gaze. Then, she saw another patient walking closer. Helpless, she gritted her teeth and took off her veil. Ah! Cries of surprise rang out from the surroundings. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the girl's face, and their faces revealed expressions of pity and curiosity. The girl's face turned red, and she lowered her head in front of everyone's strange gazes. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she bit her lips to prevent herself from crying out loud. Feng was stunned. Chapter 1063. Almost everyone had a look of disgust on their faces. Some of them even used their sleeves to cover their noses, as if the girl's sore on her chin was emitting a foul smell. The girl closed her eyes and the tears she had been holding back finally came out. Chen Ning found that the linen-clothed youth did not have a strange expression on his face at all. His eyes were clear and not only did he not show any disgust towards the girl, he even moved closer and carefully looked at the sore on her chin. He even used his hand to gently press down on the sore. Does it hurt? He asked. The girl shook her head and looked at the godly doctor with wide eyes in disbelief. He didn't dislike her sore. The linen-clothed youth nodded. He washed his hands in the basin on the side and then sat down. Godly doctor, my illness. Can it be cured? The girl looked at him with a gaze filled with hope. This is not an illness, you don't need to be cured. The linen-clothed youth gently said. The glow on the girl's face dimmed and she said in a stunned voice, it's not an illness. The linen-clothed youth nodded, this sore has been around for a year. You had a serious illness a year ago and after you recovered, this sore grew, right? Yes. That's right. Godly doctor, how did you know? The girl's eyes opened wide in disbelief. The surrounding people also revealed looks of disbelief. Only Joy Fong gave a cold snort in his heart. He thought, this girl's acting skills are really good, she really knows how to act. This sore of yours came from that illness. After you recovered, you were afraid that it would come back, so you would take medicine from time to time, right? This sore of yours is not an illness, it is because you took too much medicine. Medicine is 30% poisonous and this poison has been stored in your body, so it will come out through this sore. As long as you don't take any more medicine when you go back, this sore will be healed without any medicine. So, I won't give you a prescription right now because no matter what medicine you take now, it will only worsen your sore. The linen-clothed youth said this and the girl nodded. Godly doctor, you're not wrong at all. I'm afraid of being sick, so whenever I feel uncomfortable, I'll take medicine. I never thought that eating too much medicine would make me like this. She felt more regretful the more she thought about it and began to cry again. After your sore heals, there will be a large scar on your face. I have a tube of ointment here that can remove scars. If you want to use it, you can give it a try. The linen-clothed youth said. The girl's eyes lit up and she immediately said, I'm willing to use it. Godly doctor, how much does this ointment cost? Is it very expensive? She couldn't help grabbing the purse in her hand as she nervously said. The linen-clothed youth looked at her and said in a nervous voice, God doctor, it. Of the purse and he of her, of the purse. She took out of the coins and of the purse. As she could on it, a young man behind the hemp-clothed youth took the money, opened the cabinet and took out a tube of ointment, and handed it to the girl. The girl clasped the ointment tightly and walked out with 1,000 thanks. The surrounding people all looked at the girl's back with envy. They all knew that the godly doctor's treatment fee varied from person to person. His eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. With just a glance, he would know how much money you had. Chapter 1064. Everyone knew that the godly doctor had the 3 don't treat rule. As long as a patient fell into one of these 3 rules, the godly doctor would not save them. So there were many nobles and Jianghu people that would disguise themselves and pretend to be poor people to seek treatment. However, under the godly doctor's sharp eyes, they could not hide anything. They came by luck, but returned with disappointment. As long as the godly doctor made a move, there was no illness that he could not cure. Even if he offered money, he would not hesitate at all. Just like that girl's ointment, it had such a miraculous effect, how could it only be worth 10 copper coins? The godly doctor's eyes swept over and knew that the girl was embarrassed, so he only asked for 10 copper coins. Perhaps these 10 copper coins wouldn't even be enough to buy the residue of the ointment. So everyone was envious of that girl's good luck. Shui Feng saw this and couldn't help muttering in his heart, humph, fishing for fame, no wonder he has such a big reputation. He did not know why, but he did not like this linen-clothed youth at all. He always felt that he was a hypocrite and was exaggerating. He could not see any high-level medical skills at all. He moved his lips several times, wanting to persuade Qin Ning to leave, but he saw that Qin Ning was staring at the hemp-clothed youth without blinking. From taking his pulse to observing his expression, she was carefully watching his every move. She had a very interested expression on her face which made him swallow back the words he was about to say. Qin Ning's heart trembled. He said in his heart, the Empress is still young and is a young lady from a wealthy family. She has not seen much of the world and has never seen the face of a Jianghu swindler. She was just casually bluffed by this godly doctor and believed it. Humph, I will find a chance to expose this godly doctor's lies and ruin his reputation. Godly doctor. You really are the godly doctor. Suddenly, a joyful shout came from outside the hut. Everyone turned to look. They saw the middle-aged man with the stomach ache running over with a face of wild joy. He charged into the hut and bowed down to the linen-clothed youth. "Godly doctor, your medical skills are really brilliant. You said that there were worms in my stomach, and there really were worms, and a lot of worms. It was really too scary. When I went back to take a look, I was so scared that my legs went soft and I almost fell into the latrine pit," that person said in an overjoyed voice. When everyone heard this, they were all shocked. They looked over at his face and saw that his face was yellow and lishless. Although he was now skinny, his face was rosy and full of life. There was not a trace of sickness on him at all. "Old brother, when you went to the toilet, did you really poop bugs? Old brother, just now, you went to the toilet, did you really poop bugs?" The middle-aged man nodded his head again and again, his face revealing an aghast expression. A lot. If it wasn't for the godly doctor's medicine, I wouldn't dare to believe that there would be so many bugs in my stomach. It's all because of these damned bugs causing trouble in my stomach, causing me to have abdominal pain from time to time. Now my stomach doesn't hurt, not even a little bit. Godly doctor, your great kindness, this lowly one will never forget." He knelt on the ground and kowtowed a few times to the linen-clothed youth. Everyone let out a buzzing sound of disbelief. Chapter 1065. Shui Feng hesitated a bit before following behind those people to see what was going on. After a while, he was the first to come back. His face looked like he had eaten shit, it was very ugly. When he thought of what he had just seen, his throat felt itchy and he almost vomited. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would never have thought that this person's stomach would have bugs. Moreover, they were densely packed like dozens of white earthworms. Ugh! Shui Feng's chest turned over and he quickly used his hand to cover his mouth. He suppressed that disgusting feeling with great difficulty. Impossible. This was definitely impossible. He definitely did not believe that these bugs really came out from the middle-aged man's stomach. Perhaps it was the genius doctor's disciple that put them in ahead of time to confuse everyone's eyes. He put on a good show to make everyone believe it was real. Right, it must be like this. Humph, he definitely could not fall for this genius doctor's trick. Genius doctor, why does this little one's stomach have so many bugs? This time the genius doctor has cured this little one, but what if this little one's stomach grows more bugs in the future? The middle-aged man asked with a face of worry. The linen-clothed youth asked, "Do you like to drink raw well water?" "That's right." The middle-aged man nodded. "Your illness is caused by drinking raw well water. There is a type of long worm that likes to lay its eggs in water. These eggs are very small and almost invisible. I guess you must have drunk well water that contains the worm eggs. That's why so many worms hatched in your stomach. In the future, you must remember to boil the well water before drinking. Then you won't get this illness again." After the linen-clothed youth finished speaking, the surrounding people couldn't help sucking in a cold breath. Most of them were villagers that lived nearby, so drinking raw well water was a common occurrence. Once they heard that there were bugs in the well water, they couldn't remain calm. "Genius doctor, I also drink raw well water every day. Do I also have bugs in my stomach?" Someone didn't care that it wasn't his turn yet as he stepped forward to ask. He had just personally seen the bugs coming out of the back courtyard and was incomparably shocked. Thinking about how his stomach also had these terrifying bugs, his face turned ashen and he couldn't even stand straight. There were quite a few people that had the same thoughts as him. They all swarmed forward and began to ask questions. "Everyone, don't make a fuss. If you disturb my master, no one will be treated today." When the genius doctor's disciple saw this, he stepped forward in front of the linen-clothed youth and spoke in a loud voice. Everyone instantly shivered. They immediately remembered that the godly doctor liked quiet and did not like noise. They immediately closed their mouths and couldn't help moving back. The chaotic scene immediately became so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Everyone held their breaths, not daring to even breathe loudly. They looked at the youth in linen robes with uneasy hearts. The youth in linen clothes had an ugly expression on his face. He sat in the chair. His skin was already very pale, but now it was so pale that there was no trace of blood. He frowned and rubbed his forehead. Everyone's heart was filled with panic. They thought to themselves, "Oh no, we've angered the godly doctor. I'm afraid the godly doctor won't treat us today." Joe Fong looked down on the linen-clothed youth even more. "Humph, you're just putting on an act." The patient only spoke a little louder. "Who are you putting on this look for?" Chapter 1066. The linen-clothed youth gave an sound. Mingyu took out a small porcelain bottle and opened it. She poured out a red pill and placed it in front of the linen-clothed youth. The linen-clothed youth took it and swallowed it without even looking at it. Then he closed his eyes and waved his hand. Mingyu carefully stood to the side. Everyone stared at the linen-clothed youth without blinking. They were thinking, no wonder the godly doctor didn't like people making noise, it was because the godly doctor himself was sick. But wasn't he the #1 godly doctor in the world? They had never heard of a disease that the godly doctor couldn't cure. Could it be he couldn't cure his own disease? Chen Ning had a thoughtful look on her face. She noticed that the red pill the linen-clothed youth had taken had traces of cinnabar on it. Cinnabar had a small amount of fire poison in it, and normal people would be poisoned if they took it. They would bleed from their orifices and die, but this linen-clothed youth dared to take the cinnabar pill. Could it be that he had a cold poison in his body and he wanted to use poison to fight poison? The linen-clothed youth sat there with his eyes closed. After a while, his face relaxed a little. He looked up and looked over the crowd in front of him. "Everyone, there's no need to be afraid. These eggs are only an isolated case, not all wells have eggs. However, when everyone drinks water in the future, try to drink boiled well water. This way, you won't get sick easily and your body won't turn cold. Especially for those with women in their families, you have to be careful." The linen-clothed youth slowly said. His voice was even lower than before. When everyone heard this, they all relaxed. Chen Ning found that this linen-clothed youth's voice was low. It was not because he had a low voice, but rather because he was weak. She also noticed that from beginning to end, the linen-clothed youth had been sitting in the chair and had not stood up at all. Could it be that not only was his body sick, even his legs couldn't be used? On the way here, she had heard many legends about the godly doctor, but she had never heard that he was a cripple. Next. The linen-clothed youth slowly spoke again. The patient next in line revealed a look of joy. He had waited for a long time and it was finally his turn. When he was about to go forward, he suddenly heard a weak voice say, "Big brother, can you let this old woman look first? I feel so uncomfortable that I want to die." The patient turned around and saw an old woman in her 50s standing behind her, trembling slightly with the help of a walking stick. "Auntie, you can look at the illness first, I can't sit or lie down. I can only wait a bit." The old woman thanked the person and said with a sigh, I can't sit or lie down with this illness, so I can only stand." The old woman thanked the person and said with a sigh. Hearing this, everyone's eyes opened wide in shock. Not being able to sit or lie, she could only stand. What kind of illness? The youth in linen clothes was not surprised, and his face was still calm. He took the old woman's pulse, closed his eyes, and fell into deep thought. How long have you been sick? After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes and asked. About 7 or 8 days, the old woman said. Did anything happen when you got sick? The old woman's eyes were already completely red. It was clear that this illness had tortured her quite badly. She hadn't closed her eyes for several days. She had been in pain the entire time, but after hearing the linen-clothed youth's words, her old eyes couldn't help widening. Chapter 1067. Don't worry, tell me slowly. What happened that day? The youth asked patiently. Sigh, I'm getting old and my legs aren't as nimble as before. I wasn't paying attention and fell. It was just that this fall was a little heavy and it took me a long time to get up. From then on, I realized that I couldn't lie down or sit down. As long as I lie down or sit down, I'll be out of breath and cough non-stop. Godly doctor, can this illness of mine be cured? The youth didn't answer but asked, Did you just eat before you fell? The old woman's eyes widened in surprise. Yes, how do you know? The youth nodded. Auntie, I want to take a look at your illness. You might feel a little uncomfortable later. The old woman said, It's okay. I don't care as long as I can cure this illness. Mingyu, help this auntie lie down, the youth ordered. Miracle doctor, I can't lie down. Once I lie down, I might not be able to get up again, the old woman hesitated. Mingyu said, Auntie, don't worry. My master is here. He can cure any strange illness. Just listen to him. He helped the old woman lie down on the wooden bed next to him. The old woman lay down nervously. Everyone stared at her intently. They had never heard of or seen such a strange illness. Cough, 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 cough. As expected, not long after the old woman lay down, she started coughing hoarsely. She took a deep breath and coughed so hard that she couldn't breathe. Her skinny hands grabbed her clothes tightly and her eyes rolled back. All right, Mingyu, help her up, the youth said. Mingyu quickly helped the old woman up and passed her the crutch. It was strange that the old woman stopped coughing after standing for a while. However, she looked even more dispirited and listless. Everyone saw the situation and felt that it was unbelievable. This was a strange disease that he had never seen or heard of before. Mingyu, take 10 aged dates and add a bowl of aged vinegar. Fry them until they are hot and feed them to Auntie. The youth in linen clothes quickly wrote a prescription and passed it to Mingyu. Mingyu respectfully received it and quickly went to brew the medicine. After a while, the medicine was ready and Mingyu brought it in. The old woman hesitated. Miracle doctor, can I really be cured after drinking this medicine? She couldn't believe it. Because this bowl of soup was really not medicine. It was just a few dates and vinegar. It smelled strongly of vinegar. Could it really cure his strange illness? The youth in linen clothes didn't say much and just nodded his head lightly. The old woman made up her mind and drank the whole bowl of vinegar soup. Ching Feng, pat her back. The old woman suddenly raised her voice. Before anyone could react, another disciple took a step forward, stretched out his right palm, and struck the old woman's back with force. The old woman screamed and spat out a mouthful of phlegm. The hemp-clothed youth glanced at the thick phlegm on the ground and nodded. Auntie, your illness has been cured. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened in disbelief, almost suspecting that there was something wrong with their ears. Was it that simple? The old woman's face was full of disbelief. She shook her head and said, Godly doctor, don't try to scare an old woman like me. How can I be cured so quickly? Chapter 1068. The old woman lied back down on the wooden bed in disbelief. She looked at the godly doctor in a surprised manner. She was filled with fear and did not dare close her eyes. Who would have thought that after a while, the cough she imagined did not come? After a while, she actually closed her eyes and began to snore loudly. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stunned. Just a moment ago, the scene of the old woman coughing as soon as she laid down on the bed was still fresh in their minds. Who would have thought that after drinking a bowl of vinegar date soup, her strange illness would be cured? And she was sleeping so soundly. If they did not see it with their own eyes, none of them would have believed it. Godly doctor. He really was a godly doctor. Everyone had already called this linen-clothed youth the divine doctor. Now that they had personally seen his incredible medical skills, they were even more amazed. Even Joy Fong began to whisper in his heart. Could it be that this godly doctor's reputation was not undeserved and he really had some skills? Chen Ning saw that this linen-clothed youth had taken care of 3 difficult cases in a short period of time and she couldn't help secretly nodding. He had only taken a pulse and looked at the patient's complexion, but he was able to clearly explain the time and reason of the patient's illness without a single mistake. It could even be said that the medicine had cured the illness. With this kind of magical medical skills, he was truly worthy of the title of the world's #1 godly doctor. She was afraid that she would meet a swindler from the Jianghu, and she was even more afraid that the patient would be a doctor for this godly doctor. So when the godly doctor was treating the patient, she was very careful. Not only did she observe the linen-clothed youth's every move, even the patient's expression did not escape her eyes. However, she did not find anything fake at all, which meant that the doctor and the patient had not done this beforehand. Like this, her heart was filled with hope. As long as she could invite this godly doctor back to the capital to treat Xiao Bai would definitely be able to live. But how was he going to invite this godly doctor? Because from this godly doctor's past, it could be seen how much he hated the royal family, the nobles, and even the people of the martial arts world. She knew that as long as she revealed her identity and reason for coming, she would be mercilessly rejected and expelled by this linen-clothed youth. What should she do? What could she use to move this godly doctor and make him come to the capital to treat Xiao Bai? Chen Ning thought of 7-8 methods in her heart, but she felt that none of them were suitable. She stood there quietly, thoughts flying through her mind. She decided to be patient and wait for the right time. This noble one, please forgive this one for being unable to help your illness. At this time, sitting in front of the hemp-robed youth was a fatty in his 30s. He had a round waist, a fat head, and big ears. With one look, one could tell that he lived like a prince. However, he was wearing coarse clothes, which made him look neither fish nor fowl. It took him a lot of effort to get in line, but the youth in hemp garments only glanced at him and didn't even check his pulse before directly rejecting him. The fatty immediately got angry and shouted, "Godly doctor, other people line up, I also line up. Why is it that everyone else can treat me, but when it's my turn, you don't? Is my illness harder than the other people's illness?" The hemp-clothed youth said leisurely, "I can treat your illness, but I am not willing to treat you. Please go elsewhere and find a better doctor." The fat man immediately slammed the table in anger and shouted, "Aren't you known as a divine doctor? I don't think you know how to treat it. You don't deserve your reputation." Chapter 1069. The hemp-clothed youth had seen this kind of people many times, so he was not angry. He only said, "Qing Feng, Mingyue, send this noble person away." Qing Feng and Mingyue immediately came forward and angrily said to the fatty, "My master has 3 illnesses that he can't treat. Do rich people like you think you can hide from my master's eyes by wearing ragged clothes? You're looking down on people too much. Quickly leave, quickly leave. If my master says he won't treat him, then he won't treat him." The 2 of them threw the fatty out. The fatty was like a shrew as he sat on the ground and loudly shouted, the godly doctor doesn't treat him and even hits him. Is there still any law in this day and age? Someone come, save me. The godly doctor and his disciple are hitting people. When everyone saw this, they were filled with anger. They all accused the fatty of being shameless and told him to quickly leave. Noble person, the godly doctor said that high officials won't treat him. Do you think his words are nonsense? Quickly leave. This is truly shameful. I don't know which door didn't close properly for this bug to come out. He thinks the old godly doctor is blind, but does he think we're all blind? Let's throw this bug out together. Alright, throw him out. Several robust youths walked out from the crowd and rolled up their sleeves as they walked in front of the fatty. Without saying a word, they lifted the fatty up by his arms and legs. Hey, what are you doing? Put me down. Put me down. Do you know who this old master is? I'm telling you, as long as you dare harm a single hair on my head, father will have my father turn you into mincemeat. Put me down. Ah! The fatty couldn't struggle and could only loudly curse. The several young men turned a deaf ear to him and let him curse as they carried him out the door. Everyone could only hear the fatty's unceasing stream of curses, and then they only heard a muffled, plop sound, and then the fatty's curses suddenly stopped. When the youths returned, everyone asked them where they had thrown fatty to. A youth pointed at the backyard without a care in the world, the latrine pit. Everyone couldn't help laughing. Seeing this, Shui Feng's heart couldn't help sinking a bit. This godly doctor was just like the legends. If the officials said he wouldn't treat them, he wouldn't treat them, not bending the rules at all. After Fatty's farce, some of the rich and powerful people in the queue also wore the clothes of ordinary people like Fatty. They wanted to pass themselves off as real people, so many of them quietly slipped away. There were also some who wanted to get lucky and continued to stay in the queue. Following that, Chen Ning personally saw the hemp-clothed youth treat several patients with difficult illnesses. These strange illnesses were something she had never seen before. But in the eyes of the hemp-clothed youth, it was as simple as eating cabbages. No matter how complicated the illness was, as long as he took the pulse, everything would be clear. One dose of medicine would be able to see the effect immediately. Shui Feng was not convinced of him at first, but after seeing this, his heart received a strong impact. If this wasn't a genius doctor, then what would be? This kind of high-level medical skills, this was the first time he had seen it. Compared to Dr. Zhang's skills, he wasn't even worthy of carrying his shoes. Chapter 1070. Shui Feng's heart hardened. No matter what, he would bring this godly doctor back to the capital city. No matter what method he used, he would not hesitate. The linen-clothed youth seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly turned around and looked at Shui Feng. Shui Feng's heart turned cold. He felt that although the linen-clothed youth's eyes were calm, they seemed to be able to see through one's heart. It was as if he could see through his thoughts. He immediately lowered his head and did not look at the linen-clothed youth's eyes. Although his martial arts were high, his spirit was very reserved. He was tall and thin, with a very average appearance. The linen-clothed youth's eyes fell on Shui Feng's face for a bit before moving away. He no longer looked at him and continued to treat the patients. Shui Feng couldn't help breaking out in a cold sweat. He could see that this linen-clothed youth did not know martial arts and could not even walk. He had been sitting in the chair without moving at all, but his eyes were able to see through him. The linen-clothed youth's diagnosis speed was very fast. Chen Ning pondered while looking at him. This youth's treatment methods could be said to be very varied. He knew bone setting and acupuncture. It could be said that he was most proficient in acupuncture. There were several cases where he did not give the patient any prescriptions at all. With just a few needles, the patient's pain had completely disappeared, making people gasp in amazement. She couldn't help thinking of the book that the youth at the door was reciting about acupuncture points. Her heart suddenly flashed with a thought, perhaps she could start from this aspect. The sky was getting dark at this time and the light of dusk entered the room. Qing Feng and Ming Yu lit an oil lamp and the faint yellow light illuminated the room. "Master, we'll stop here for today. You've been tired all day, so you should rest." Chen Ning blinked and couldn't help wanting to laugh. This linen-clothed youth looked to be in his early 20s, only 2 years older than Qing Feng and Ming Yu, but the two of them called him an old man. It was truly interesting. The linen-clothed youth nodded. His face was a bit pale as he leaned back in the chair and closed his eyes. "Everyone, my master is tired, we'll stop here for today. I ask everyone to come back tomorrow, my master needs to rest." Qing Feng and Ming Yu bowed to the waiting people. Everyone knew the godly doctor's rules, they would only see patients until it was dark, so they all left. Those who lived nearby went home to rest and those who came from far away had carriages, so they went back to their carriages to rest. They all had numbers in their hands, so they were not worried about lining up again the next day. Chen Ning saw Qing Feng and Ming Yu take care of everything and she couldn't help secretly admiring them. She stood outside the door and hesitated a bit. She did not know if she should leave with the linen-clothed youth. If she just left like this, she would have. "Miss, if you want to see a doctor, please line up earlier tomorrow. My master needs to rest and won't see a doctor tonight." Qing Feng and Ming Yu saw her standing outside the door and couldn't help but look at her. Chen Ning's heart moved and she said, "I'm not here to see a doctor." "Matter. Sure is doctor is." Qing Feng and Ming Yu revealed a strange expression. They had seen many people and when they saw Chen Ning, although she was wearing normal clothes that were not luxurious at all, their eyes lit up. It was like a shining pearl had appeared in the night sky. Chapter 1071. Qing Feng and Ming Yu both shook their heads and said, "My master doesn't see outsiders. If Miss wants to see a doctor, you can wait in line, but you have to ask my master. My master won't teach you." Their hearts suddenly came to a realization. They thought that this girl also wanted to become their master's disciple. How could it be that easy? To be able to become the disciple of the godly doctor, they had to put in a lot of effort to finally become the disciple of the godly doctor. For example, the disciple at the door had already been in the godly doctor valley for 3 years and 6 months, but he still hadn't formally become a disciple. This girl, if she wanted to become a disciple, she had to go through them first. Chen Ning raised her eyebrows. "Do you two think that I'm here to become a disciple?" "I don't want to become a disciple, I just have a few medical questions that I don't understand, so I want to ask the godly doctor for advice." Qing Feng and Ming Yu still shook their heads. They blocked the door, not letting her take a single step in. "Miss, please go back. Master won't see you and won't answer your questions." Over the years, they had seen too many people like Chen Ning who wanted to find an excuse to get close to the godly doctor. So no matter what Chen Ning said, the two of them just shook their heads. Xiao Ru couldn't help feeling annoyed. She placed her hands on her hips and glared at the two of them. As soon as she opened her mouth, Chen Ning glared at her, not allowing her to speak. She could only swallow the words that were about to come out of her mouth and angrily stared at Qing Feng and Ming Yu. "All right, since the godly doctor doesn't want to see outsiders, I'll come back tomorrow," Chen Ning said with a faint smile. "Even if Miss comes back 10 times, my master still won't see you. If Miss is not sick, then please leave the godly doctor valley." Qing Feng and Ming Yu said in unison. "You're blocking me from asking the godly doctor, aren't you afraid that the godly doctor will regret it?" Chen Ning's eyes flashed and she suddenly raised her voice. She knew that the hemp-clothed youth could clearly hear her conversation with Qing Feng and Mingyu, but he didn't say a word. It was clear that he didn't want to talk to her. This was not good. Then wouldn't she have wasted her trip? No matter what, she had to attract the godly doctor's attention first. Otherwise, everything she said would be a waste. Regret? My master has never regretted anything. Mingyu and Qing Feng both laughed as if Qin Ning had asked a funny question. Alright, since it's like this, I'll be leaving. Qin Ning was not angry. She turned around and slowly walked out. Qing Feng and Mingyu let out a sigh of relief. They were worried that Qin Ning wouldn't leave. For a delicate little girl like her, they couldn't force her to leave. Seeing that she was willing to leave, it couldn't be any better. Chen slowly walked out as she raised her voice and recited, "The Tianhui acupoint is located at the intersection of the top of the head and the tips of the ears. It belongs to the governing vessel and cannot be damaged easily. The Shinting acupoint is located at the front of the head. It belongs to the governing vessel, a vital acupoint," she kept reciting. Xiao Xiao Ru and could. Shui. Zi Feng and Zhui Xiao Feng and Zhui couldn't understand. However, the young man who was guarding at the entrance of the courtyard and Qing Feng and Mingyu all changed their expressions. They were so shocked that they could not close their mouths. Because what Qin Ning was reciting was the Meridian Point Compendium that she had seen not long ago. Chapter 1072. But Qin Ning had only flipped through a few pages and she had actually memorized it word for word. The young man's eyes almost popped out. You. He pointed at Qin Ning and was stunned speechless. Qing Feng and Mingyu immediately stopped Qin Ning. The two of them had a serious expression on their faces. "Where did you get that book from?" "This is our master's secret book, you thief. You're not allowed to leave." "Thief? Why would I need to peek? It was this little brother who showed it to me." Qin Ning curled her lips and said. Qing Feng and Mingyu both turned to look at the young man with a serious expression. "You showed it to her?" The young man said with a guilty conscience, I only showed it to her once. I never thought that she would remember so much. Just once." Qing Feng and Mingyu both sucked in a cold breath. They both looked at Qin Ning with a look of disbelief. Mingyu shook his head and said, "I don't believe you. She only looked at it once and she memorized the entire page. I remember when I memorized this book, just the first page alone took me an entire 3 days to memorize it word for word. Junior brother, tell me honestly, how long did you show our master's book to her? What is her relationship with you?" His voice was extremely stern as he stared at the young man with bright eyes. The young man's face turned red as he shook his hands. "Senior brother Mingyu, you've misunderstood. I don't know her and this is her first time coming to our Miracle Doctor Valley. I don't know how she memorized our master's book." "You're lying. She memorized it after reading it once. Do you think I, Mingyu, am an idiot? Junior brother Qing Feng, you're the smartest out of the three of us. How long did you take to memorize the Meridian Point Compendium?" Qing Feng stretched out 2 fingers and said with a serious expression, "I used an entire 2 days and 2 nights. His face was filled with disbelief. The young man's forehead was covered in sweat. He felt that he wouldn't be able to explain it even if he had 100 mouths. He looked over and saw Qin Ning looking at him with a smile. It was like he was grabbing onto a life-saving straw. "Young lady, tell them, did you only take a glance at it?" I really only let you take a look." Qin Ning nodded with a smile. "That's right, I just took a look and remembered it. How hard is this? Just this simple content, does it require you to remember it for 2 days and 2 nights?" She looked at Qing Feng with a slight look of disdain. Qing Feng's face turned slightly red as he raised his chest and loudly said, "Qing Feng, this is impossible." Qing Feng said, "Ning Ning, Qing Feng, Qing Feng, Qing Feng, Qing Feng, Qing Feng." Xiaoru and Shui Feng's chests were filled with pride. The two of them looked at Qing Feng with disdain and thought, "Humph, you're so short-sighted and haven't seen the world. I'll let you see how strong my master is." Shui Feng had personally seen the whole process of reading steals on horseback. The thrilling scene at that time was still deeply imprinted in his mind. To him, this was something that he would never be able to do in his lifetime. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed that there was someone in this world who could complete the incredibly difficult task of reading steals from horseback. But he saw. Chapter 1073. Qing Feng didn't even think before saying, "Of course I don't believe it. There is no such smart person in this world. I don't believe it." "Mingyu, do you believe it?" Mingyu also shook his head and said, "I don't believe it." The young man opened his mouth, but he didn't say anything. He had seen it with his own eyes. Chen Ning had indeed only flipped through the medical book, but she had indeed memorized it word for word. Since it's like this, seeing is believing. If you don't believe me, you can take out another book and I'll recite it to you. Chen Ning rolled her eyes and said with a smile. "All right, I'll go get it now." Mingyu turned around and ran into the herb garden. After a while, he came back with a thick medical book. "This is for you. If you can really memorize it word for word after reading it once, we'll let you in to see my master," Mingyu said as he handed the medical book to Chen Ning. "Really?" Chen Ning's eyes flashed. "Of course." Mingyu nodded seriously. "All right." Chen Ning's eyes fell onto the thick medical book in her hand. She saw that there were 5 words written on the cover: acupuncture roasted first and second scriptures. Although it was in small seal, she could recognize it at a glance. These 5 words were written by the same person as the meridian acupuncture scripture she had seen before. In other words, this book was also written by the linen-clothed youth. She couldn't help revealing a faint smile. The reason why she said those words was because she wanted to read the linen-clothed youth's medical book again. Qing Feng and Mingyu really fell for her trap and took out another book. Slowly turning to the first page, she saw that the text was not in small seal, but rather written in regular script. The words were written with great force. She never thought that the linen-clothed youth would write such good words. Chen Ning held her breath and focused her attention on watching. The scripture of scorching needles could be said to be broad and profound, profound and profound. It was very rich in content. The introduction at the beginning was about basic pathology, while the latter part was about very useful clinical treatments, including causes of disease, pathogenesis, symptoms, diagnosis, acupoint selection, treatment methods, and prognosis. It was written in great detail and could be said to be a great achievement in medical skills. Although Chen Ning did not understand medicine, she knew that this acupuncture scripture was very good. She also knew that if this medical book was spread to the world, it would cause a big sensation. She was shocked. She never thought that Mingyu would give her such a precious medical book. But after thinking about it, she understood. If it wasn't for the linen-clothed youth's suggestion, how could Mingyu be so bold? The linen-clothed youth must have deliberately tested her. Although Chen Ning did not raise her head, she could feel a pair of sharp eyes staring at her from behind the bamboo curtain. She calmly turned the pages one by one. This acupuncture scripture was written by the youth in linen. She knew that as an outsider, she couldn't read too much, so she only flipped to the 5th page, closed the medical book and returned it to Mingyu. Then she closed her eyes and silently recalled the content she had just read in her mind. Mingyu took over the medical book and saw that she was motionless with her eyes closed. She thought that she was already dizzy from reading and could not remember anything, and sneered in her heart, "You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."